Podcast City Network.
Hey fans, this is Chris of FinalScore here, and we're back for another awesome packed episode. And of course, I have my co-host Craig. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. Great to be back.
Oh yeah, I'm glad to see your head is slightly deflated since the last time we spoke about the Super Bowl, and of course your love for the TB12. You love taking all 12 of that TB, don't you?
Hey, TB12 is for winners, and clearly, I mean, you clearly did not want any. So
no, I didn't, because I did make my official bold prediction about the Rams going off and making everything happen, which obviously blew up in my face. But you know,
yeah,
you
did. But to your credit, you predicted a touchdown.
I did.
You did. The Rams, but their only touchdowns when they landed the plane at the Super Bowl.
That is true, right? When it hit the tarmac at Atlanta International. But you know what? It still was, well, I'd like to say it was an exciting game, but it really wasn't. Oh, God, but that's okay, because there was some exciting football here recently, because people think that with the end of the NFL that's it, that we're sitting here waiting until the beginning of fall to see any kind of football with preseason football with the NFL or when it comes to collegiate games. But we have a new league in town.
We do. I'm excited for it.
Oh, I'm very excited for it. Because if you did not know, we have the all-new Alliance of American Football, the AAF, if you will. And
hashtag join the alliance.
Yes, hashtag join the alliance, and make sure you check them out, because I was utterly surprised with what was brought to the table and with the amount of viewership it also garnered.
Yeah, I was actually really excited when I first heard about this. It was announced, I think it was like just over a year or two ago.
Right, yes.
And obviously the Ebersol family from NFL Films is behind it.
Yes.
So they already had some big names, but they're basically filling a niche that I felt could be fulfilled in a big way, because Americans love our football.
Oh, we do.
Love our American football.
Top to bottom.
Oh yeah, we love it.
And you even got states that like literally shut down, like whole towns. Like you go out to Texas and watch high school football, there's whole towns that just completely shut down for the games.
Yeah, and we love it. So I mean, I always thought if a league was able to do it right, they could really be sustainable, because they don't have to compete with the NFL.
No, they really don't. And this is the thing that I feel like maybe previous leagues failed on, is that they tried to be that competition for the NFL, whether it be, what was it, the USFL and all these other leagues that try to prop up.
You can blame, this is another conversation, you can blame Donald Trump for that. He killed the USFL. You watched a documentary?
I did. And he effectively
they were doing really well.
They were, and they had a lot of fanfare given the star talent that they had across the board.
Yeah.
Of course, I didn't like the fact that a lot
they
of them
were stealing guys from the NFL in the draft to go play in the USFL.
Oh yeah, and doing whatever, saying and doing whatever they could to get them there too.
It's a little different now because the contracts aren't nearly as high.
No, and honestly, I feel like they take a more realistic approach, because the Ebersol family, obviously in conjunction with Bill Polian, have been able to really come out with this great product. And it's not like how it was with a lot of these other leagues, because now instead of just being like, hey, we're going to try and compete with you, no, they're going to take a step back and be like, listen, guys who've played in the NFL, who were, may not have been able to reach the echelon of where they wanted to, now have an outlet to do so. And even more so, you now also have a stage for a lot of these great collegiate standouts that you see over the years that just either A, don't make it to the NFL, period, or B, get to the NFL but end up riding the bench or get minimal garbage time and really don't get a chance to showcase themselves, because the NFL, at the end of the day, it's kind of like a good old boys league, It's all about who you know and what you've done for me lately, which I feel is very evident, especially in some of the things we're going to be talking about in our NFL segment a little bit later on. But at the end of the day, they have brought a whole new approach. And even on top of that, they've been able to pull in a lot of great minds and former players even to be able to be a part of this, including people like Troy Polamalu, who's the head of player relations, and Hines Ward, who's head of football development. And I feel like having two players that, funny enough, both played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, have stepped in to help foster what kind of football is played on the field and how these players are able to come in and do what they do in these types of settings.
Right, but if you really look at it, not only looking at, who they played for, taking a look at the other names, and You have Justin Tuck and Jared Allen, correct?
Yes, Justin Tuck and Jared Allen is part of the Player Engagement Board of Advisors.
So those 4 names, if you think about it, those are 4 of the most well-respected names, whether it's in their NFLPA negotiations with contracts, things like that. Those are very well-respected names in the NFL. So
most definitely.
The fact that they not only got great players in their own respective rights, but they also got players that were very respected off the field amongst NFL circles.
Oh, most definitely, because I can always think back, especially when it comes to Troy Polamalu and Hines Ward. I remember growing up watching him play and just how amazing Troy Polamalu when he played at USC. Because of course, as everybody knows, I'm such a great Notre Dame fan. I remember seeing him fly around and the great things he did. And when he came into the NFL, he was always just a consummate professional. Always did his job, came in, put the work in, and that's just how it was. And off the field, he did a lot of charitable work. And of course, we can't forget the great sponsorships he had, with Head and Shoulders. But, at the end of the day, though, he was always very well respected, as was Hines Ward and Justin Tuck and Jared Allen. And it's great that they have these great players that are now part of the actual organizational makeup of this league. And I feel like they could truly help guide it to something amazing.
Yeah, they definitely could. And the fact that you already mentioned Bill Polian's involved, his expertise, and even down to the officiating crew. I know we were talking about earlier, Mike Pereira's involved, Dean Blandino also are consultants for it. And then Steve Strimling is the coordinator of officiating. So I think they're going about it the right way as they should.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the big thing, is that they're actually approaching it the way it should be approached, because like we said, with these other leagues, it was more of like, hey, let's try and compete and, make money and try and draw all these players. But with this, it's almost not, I don't want to say at this point quite yet a farm system, but you're being able to give a stage for these former players of the NFL, these collegiate standouts, and people who maybe not even made it to the collegiate level. Because as we were looking through a lot of the rosters, some guys don't even have colleges listed for them.
So, just a few, but yeah.
Just a few. But still, people that are able to get a chance. And that's the big thing, is that they're giving a chance for these players where a lot of these players that had off the field issues, whether it be legally or what have you, and just weren't able to really get things going. But you know what?
The guys that were there, they showed up, they showed out this weekend.
They really did.
We were talking about some of the games in opening weekend, and they had. So not only did they get the right people, I think, in their board of directors and involved, but you look at the TV contracts they got.
Absolutely.
I was kind of surprised the NFL Network signed up.
I'm very surprised, and I think the main reason was for that, just to keep showcasing some type of football.
Right, and that's smart on their part. It really is.
Because you got to think, we are in a lull. So we really don't have football from now until about August. So that's usually what we've always been used to. But now you have an alternative. You have something to watch other than arena ball, which has been dying and fluttering for years.
It's basically, arena football, as we know it, is dead.
As we know it is dead.
Yeah, the AFL, I think, only has like 3 or 4 teams left over.
Which I don't know how you can sustain a league that way.
They can't.
Really.
A lot of them have left due to some shiesty, I guess, negotiate or something going on in the front office of that league, but that's a whole different story.
That's a whole other story. Maybe.
But I was looking at some of the other TV contracts that they got. Turner Sports is involved, so TNT, they get games there, and then CBS. Of course, CBS is going to be involved because of the Ebersol family and everything like that. So,
which maybe that's why the NFL Network even came and stepped in, because as we know, CBS obviously hosted the Super Bowl this year, but. Then they went from the Super Bowl to the next weekend. Now you have AAF games.
The only thing I'm a little concerned about is that they're putting these games not on primetime CBS. This weekend they did, which was great.
Yes.
The ratings were great.
They were. Amazing. And they were rivaling NBA games.
They beat them out.
Yes.
They had a 2.1 this weekend.
And that is amazing, especially for an inaugural game.
Yeah, for an inaugural. Well, that usually happens. I remember when the XFL came by, they had good ratings. I know that's a different story.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing.
Their opening weekend, they actually did really well in ratings for the first couple weeks.
That is true.
But their next games, they're not going to be on primetime CBS. They're going to be on CBS Sports Network. Not many people have that as part of their regular cable or streaming packages.
This is true.
So I'm a little concerned to see how that's going to work out, but having NFL Network behind them, 2 of their games are going to be on the NFL Network this upcoming weekend on Saturday the 16th and Sunday the 17th. So I'm good. I'm ready to go.
Definitely.
I want to see it.
Definitely, and it's really exciting that they were able to have these TV deals. But the biggest thing I feel is the most exciting is that you have these different rule changes, or I should say differences from what the NFL provides, because the NFL has really started to become more of a passer league where you can't even touch the wide receiver, you can't barely touch the quarterback.
Right.
Everything's really geared a certain way to get a certain product on the field. However, with a lot of the rule changes now, some things I feel are for the better, especially when it comes to safety, because there was no kickoffs. Kickoffs have been completely eliminated. So if you win the coin toss, you get the choice of having the ball or not, or deferring to the second half, and you automatically start with the ball on the 25-yard line.
And that right now, Roger Goodell is throwing his hands up saying, thank you guys for doing this first.
Oh, yes.
Because the NFL's been wanting to get rid of this for the concussion reasons in CTE.
Oh, absolutely.
But a new league that comes in and does this, the NFL's going to go, well, they did it first. We're just copying them because we think it's a good idea. When they have been wanting to do this for years.
Well, while they might end up using that as a reasoning, though, but now are they going to be viewed as the copycat? Because a lot of people were worried that, maybe this will end up being a copycat league sometime.
Well, let me put it this way. We talked about this the other day. The XFL was innovative with the sky cams over the field and mic'd up players on the field. Mm-hmm. NFL does that now. Does anyone remember the XFL did it first?
That is a good point.
No.
You do make.
I'll answer that question for you. No. I'll tell you right now. So the NFL is not going to care because the shield prevails.
Somehow they do, but with this, I feel this is going to be a little different, especially now if you take another step into some of the other rule differences, is that they have a faster running clock. It's a shorter actual play clock, and it's always a continuously running clock. So instead of having a 3.5, 4-hour NFL game, you now have a 2.5 at max 3-hour AAF game. And I feel that will actually help draw a lot more people in because now you don't have to sit here for hours on end, having already been possibly tailgating for 2, 3, 4 hours already.
Right.
Now things are going to go quicker. And I feel that'll actually help draw in the more casual fan because now they don't have to invest as much time.
Now, if only they could do that for the Super Bowl, that'd be great.
I still think the Super Bowl this year only went 3.5 hours?
Only. It was a quick game.
It was a quick game.
Well, I mean, when Tom Brady holds the ball for 2/3 of the game, to keep the Rams offense off the field, it's a good way to kill the clock.
That definitely is a good way to kill the clock. But another notable change I've noticed that's a big, big, big difference from the NFL is the fact that you can only rush 5 rushers to the quarterback.
I like this. I mean, I kind of don't like it from a old school standpoint because it's okay, well, let's just turn it to 7-on-7 or flag football. Football's already kind of going that way anyway, so I'm not mad about this.
Yeah, but one thing I look at with it, though, is that I feel like with only having 5 rushers, this helps open up an actual rushing game. Because if think about it, you have 5 linemen, you have 5 rushers, you're going to be able to man everybody up.
Yeah, hat on a hat.
So, hat on hat. So with that, I feel it's going to really open up rushing games as you go forward. But another big thing, too, that's kind of the flip side, and this is something maybe people are going to be looking at a little bit with more of a close eye, is the fact that you can nail the crap out of the quarterback, which we did see this past weekend in one of our games.
That was a great hit.
That was one of the most
clean,
amazing.
though.
It was clean, and he hit him.
Even in the NFL, that would have been clean.
Yeah, but they would have flagged it anyway.
Oh, I know, because his helmet came off.
Of course. But the thing
but he technically, by the NFL rulebook standards, he didn't land his body weight on him, so technically that's a clean hit.
And he did not spear him as well.
Correct.
So it technically was a clean hit, but you know how the NFL operates these days. They're going to try and protect a quarterback to where you have a guy like Tom Brady who barely has a hand brush his face mask, and you get a 15-yard penalty. So
you got to protect the GOAT, my man.
Yeah. Well, let him inject himself with more TB12, and we'll see how that works out. But at the end of the day, I feel this could end up becoming something a little bit more under the microscope to where, in certain areas they're trying to make it safer, but you're not really making it safer in other areas like the NFL does. And I feel that'll end up becoming like a big comparison game. And it could end up being changed in the future. But for right now, I absolutely love it.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was a great weekend of football for the AAF. They showed up. They showed out. They did a great job all the way around. The only thing that's a little worrisome is, okay, you had 2 really good games. You had Orlando basically blowing out Atlanta, which of course I love.
I loved every moment of that.
Yeah, that's our team.
That is our team.
But Arizona and Salt Lake had a really good game.
That was a classic matchup.
That was a good game. But then basically you had Memphis looked like crap against Birmingham.
They didn't even put any points up.
Yeah, they got shut out. And then San Diego and San Antonio, that was the game for that hit you were talking about. San Antonio looked good, but they only scored 15 points. in San Diego, who has Mike Martz as their coach, who's a very offensive-minded guy, 6 points.
6 points. And that's very, very surprising considering. But that game really was a defensive battle from top to bottom. But the big thing you look at is that when you look at these scores, these aren't typical scores. These aren't scores you normally would see in the NFL. And that's because of the last change I want to throw out there is the fact there are no extra points. You always go for a 2-point conversion.
I don't know how I feel about that. I really don't know how I feel.
I'm not going to lie. I'm a little on the fence about it just because I feel like special teams should always play some type of a role. Because when I played football, there's always 3 phases of the game: offense, defense, special teams. And if you win 2 of 3, normally you win the game.
Right. So they already taking out the kickoff. I understand that.
Oh,
but
yes.
Taking out the extra point, I don't know about that. Because, I mean, basically you're telling your kickers, okay, we only need you. Stay warm for the whole game because we might need you for a field goal, maybe.
Well, here's the thing, though. Do they maybe take a different approach instead of having, say, 1 punter and 1 kicker on the roster? Do you have one that can do both?
There's already guys that can do that because you've seen in the NFL when either a kicker or a punter get hurt and they don't want to sign another one, they basically tell the other guy, whoever's left, the punter or the kicker, they tell him, okay, you're pulling double duty this game.
Yeah, because they still have field goal kicking in the game, which we obviously did see with some of these games. But another thing, too, is that you still have punting as well. So aspects of special teams are still there. It's just I feel like they are eliminating certain aspects to where special teams probably won't be as much of a force to decide a game unless it comes down to a field goal.
Right, and if the games come down to that, then, so be it. But I don't want to see them completely get rid of the kicking game because, I mean, you have guys that is what they do. They kick.
Most definitely.
And clearly the world needs more really good kickers, especially if you play for the Chicago Bears.
No, yes, most definitely. If you get a nice kick doink doink play going on, which I loved that outcome just because that helped my Eagles advance.
I did too because I'm a Detroit fan, so I just like Chicago everything. Oh, I loved it.
You loved every moment.
I loved it.
I know you did,
except for the Cubs. I like the Cubs.
Oh well, we're not all perfect.
Right,
so,
that's true.
We're all human. But at the end of the day, there was a lot of exciting football. I felt like, even though you had the defensive battle between the San Antonio Commanders and the San Diego Fleet, which ended in a 15-6 victory for the Commanders. You had that great hit. That was such an amazing hit. But on the flip side, there were a lot of turnovers, a lot of sacks. The Commanders had 3 sacks and 3 interceptions as a team. And it was just crazy, honestly. And defense did reign supreme, even though in a passing standpoint, they did go 18 for 37, 239 yards, but threw 2 picks. So
here's my thing about that. Mm-hmm. You're going to see a lot of turnovers, especially early on,
which we did see in these games.
Right, I mean, you did. There's going to be a few times where you're going to see some low scoring games because you got to think, they technically had a training camp, but it's a lot of guys that you're not looking at. Not everyone is NFL talent.
Right.
A lot of guys have been in the NFL, which we'll talk about that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to see a lot of these turnovers and a lot of sloppy play for the first week or so until players kind of get in their rhythm. Because how many of these guys maybe have been out of football for a year or so?
That is a very good point that you have to look at because a lot of these guys, I feel like, not to really put it down this way, but really got pulled off the street to join these teams and get these going.
Well, I mean, and we talked about this before the show, and one of the things I think they're doing really well is they're pulling a lot of local-ish regional players that can help create some fandom for these teams,
right?
Because that's the one thing you really need to do is you got to pull in the local fans. Otherwise, you're never going to have a sustainable team.
And like you said, before we started this show, we were looking down these rosters, and just for our local Orlando Apollos, go Apollos, is that you have a lot of guys.
Hashtag take aim.
That's right. Hashtag take aim because the Orlando Apollos are going to take it this year. But and as of right now, are the highest scoring team in the AAF. Just saying,
most points scored in league history.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's right. Remember that, fans. But the big thing I look at is that you look at the roster makeup, and a lot of them are from really just all around Florida, whether it be Florida Atlantic, FSU, Miami, Florida International, a lot of UCF since they are Orlando-based. And that is something you really see that is from every standpoint. You go out to the Arizona Hotshots. We saw there was a lot of Nebraska players. You go out to the San Diego Fleet. They have a lot of UCLA and USC players. things like that. You go to Atlanta Legends, they got Georgia. They have Aaron Murray, who was a former Georgia quarterback.
Yeah, and
know
the Birmingham Iron is basically all half Alabama.
Yes, they have every offensive line position has an Alabama player. And probably one of the more notable names is Trent Richardson in the backfield. And even though he
needs
play
this.
he needs this. He needs this like he needs to win the lottery. But you know what? He came out and had 23 rushes, which was by far the most by all 4 of the running backs they had played, and he only had 58 yards, and which comes out to a 2.5 average. But he had 2 touchdowns.
He also fumbled the ball.
He did fumble the ball, which is that's Trent Richardson. Sorry, you got to take that. I bet you if you asked Trent Richardson, hey, how did you do? Be like, well, I scored more touchdowns than, fumbles. So
I feel like for him, I just like, he needs this, man. He needs to show up in a big way week in and week out. He needs to be, for him as an athlete, because he could, coming out of college, everyone thought he had NFL talent. Which I think he still does.
We all did think that, but
I think he still does. But I think for him, like, he needs to average like 125 to 140 yards rushing a game.
Yeah, you can't have
this league.
Yeah, you can't have 23 rushes for 58 yards with a 2.5 average and expect that that's going to be sustainable.
Some of that could be how they're scheming too, their blocking scheme, their run scheme.
Could be,
but I mean, he 58 yards, 2.5 average. Yeah, you got 2 touchdowns, but come on, man.
Well, and he also had a catch for 14 yards, so let's throw that out there. At least he's I'd say he's multifaceted, but he's really not. But the thing is, Birmingham ran over the Memphis Express 26-0, so you have to think that in some way, obviously, he did help with that. But just looking at that average, going down the line for the rest of the season, which is a 10-game season, by the way, it's not going to be sustainable, I feel like, to win games. The only times he's scoring is when they end up in a, first and goal, second and goal, where you end up with,
on the goal line,
5 yards
zone,
or less. That's where you're going to see Trent Richardson get the ball. And I just don't feel it's going to be sustainable for him.
Man, I really want him to do well. I mean, he's a nice story. Like, yeah, he got drafted really high, tanked with Cleveland. I mean, everybody does except
with Indy, though.
Yeah, I mean, everybody tanks in Cleveland unless your name's Baker Mayfield right now.
This is true.
But didn't do well in Indy. Just kind of fell out of favor with NFL coaches.
Mm-hmm. And gained weight a little bit, if I'm not mistaken, after all that.
Well,
people didn't really want to take a chance.
Wouldn't you?
Well, I mean, he probably did get depressed and started eating the bonbons and the Twinkies. So
I don't know about all that, but yeah, I really hope he does well, man. Especially for a lot of these guys on the Birmingham team, you're basically playing in your backyard.
Yes, because they have so many players. I mean, so many players from the Alabama area that's on that team that played at either Alabama, ended up playing at like a B or what's that one? UAB.
Yeah.
Stuff like that at Auburn. A lot of SEC, influence with this team.
It makes sense though, because like I said, there's a lot of these teams are trying to bring in guys that are somewhat local, if not regional.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes sense because you want to sell tickets, you want it to be sustainable and all that. But I do want to make a comment though. Did you see how ESPN roasted Hackenberg after their game? I mean,
Hackenberg
I feel bad for him, but yeah, he's not that hard to roast.
He's really not. And honestly, and if I know you've seen some of the videos going around with some of these outlets that have kind of been roasting the league as a whole, or at least trying to, and they use the Hackenberg footage.
I know. And that pissed me off, man. Like, seriously. I know ESPN's all over it because I don't know, for whatever reason, they just want to, like, I don't know, show the NFL that they have their back or something, like the AAF is competition. But I feel like they really tried to make fun of the AAF. And it's like, why you don't need to do that.
Which they really don't need to, because you look at it, this is not a competition league, as in, against the NFL. The thing I look at, this is in my opinion, kind of a farm league. You're giving an opportunity for these players to be able to come back and prove themselves, to be able to make that jump. But
to make this clear, they are not marketing themselves as a a farm league or a
No, they definitely are not.
non-professional league. They're definitely going at it from a professional standpoint. They're a professional league.
And they
through
are
and through.
playing these players I would consider to be fairly well. Obviously it's not NFL money. In the NFL,
Right.
you have so many billions of dollars flowing all the way through the league in these teams
Right.
that they throw money at these players, where you have a guy like Kirk Cousins who's somehow getting paid $25 million a year because he's somehow good. But, whatever. But you look at the contractual setups for these guys is that they're making $250,000 over a 3-year span. Every player has this contract. And the beauty of this contract is that at any time, if the NFL picks you up, you're automatically released and able to go pursue that venture.
Yeah, I like that. And that's one of the other things I felt like really needed to be addressed if any new league is to succeed. Whether you're competing with the NFL or like the Alliance, where they're just going to do it off season, it's smart because these guys' ultimate goal is still going to get the NFL, and these guys are not dumb. They know these guys want to get the NFL. We listed off all the NFL ties this league already has. They're probably going to try to help them make the NFL,
which makes sense.
Which is that's great because it's kind of going to be a de facto feeder system for guys that are trying to get back into the NFL. Because a lot of guys, when they leave college, a lot of them still get undrafted free agent contracts and do training camp and all that. But usually after that, if they fall out of favor or don't get picked up by teams, they usually resort to go to Canada or something.
Oh, yeah. And the CFL.
Because you see a lot more. Hey, don't knock CFL.
I mean, it's not bad.
I love watching me some Canadian football league. I really do.
But it's not American football. And I think that's at the end of the day what every warm-blooded American man and woman wants to see.
I'll still watch me some Canadian football.
Well, yeah, but we're sports junkies.
That's true. This is very true.
I'm just saying, we're not average sports fans.
I mean, I'm the guy that also watched, this is a little off topic, but I'm also the guy that would watch the La Liga and basketball league in Spain. If it's on, I'll watch it.
And what's funny is I know exactly which league you're talking about, and I know a good number of the teams in there.
That's how I found out about Luka Doncic.
I'm not even going to try and say that name. Just saying. But we'll touch on that more later.
Another one.
But the big thing is, though, is that we did have some exciting games. Obviously, outside of the turnover-filled and multi-sack-filled and defensive battle that was the San Antonio Commanders and San Diego Fleet, we did have, obviously, we also touched on Birmingham Iron totally shutting out the Memphis Express 26-0. But we did have more of a classic game that happened on a Sunday night between the Arizona Hotshots and the Salt Lake City Stallions, which was a more close affair as the game went on. Had some great deep passing that I really, really enjoyed from mainly the Arizona Hotshots. They ended up with a receiver, Quentin Patton, who had only 4 receptions, for 107 yards. And a lot of those were amazing grabs along the sideline, deep throws up the middle of the field, were just really spectacular catches.
If I'm not mistaken, Patton was also the guy. He had that he had that deep crossing route that he dove and caught it on his fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, was that the guy that did that?
That's the same one. Because he made pretty much every huge play in that game. It was like an offensive showcase, but it was really exciting.
I mean, yeah, they got some talent, man. There's a lot of talent in this league, and I'm really excited to see what next week, the next week's slate of games bring. Because I know Orlando is traveling to San Antonio. Mm-hmm. That's going to be on Sunday the 17th at 4 on the CBS network.
Yes.
The other game I'm excited to see is I want to see the Arizona Hotshots. They're playing at Memphis on Saturday the 16th.
And I know Memphis is going to want to try and get some kind of retribution after getting shut out.
Yeah, definitely. But I don't know, man. I feel like that team is going to be one of the worst teams outside. I think San Diego and Memphis are the 2 worst teams in the league.
I honestly have to agree with you. I feel like they're just
based on what I saw in week 1.
But I feel like at this point, obviously we're only 1 game in for all these teams. But
yeah.
The Atlanta Legends also just did not show up against the Orlando Apollos. And I felt just didn't show up. It wasn't even close.
Yeah, that's true. But I think that was more of a product of Orlando. I think from top to bottom has the most talent of any team in this league. I think they have the best coaching in Spurrier, and he's been chomping at the bit to go coach again.
Oh, absolutely he has, because at the end of the day.
So I think it's a little bit of There was the first game of the league's existence, so and it was here. It was here in Florida.
That's
it was
true.
in Orlando, so they were fired up.
Yeah, that's very true.
I think it was more of a product that I think you see Atlanta turn it around in week 2 against San Diego on the road. It'll be tough, but I think that's a little bit of a closer game.
Possibly. But the big thing I look at with the Orlando Apollos, I feel like they are a class above everybody else. And that's the big thing I look at is that they really went out and just gave everything they had against Atlanta. Atlanta just did not have an answer. It ended up blowing them just straight out of the water, 40-6.
Yeah.
But obviously, when you have Steve Spurrier, roaming the sideline, the good old ball coach in the great state where he's done some of his best coaching.
Yeah.
What are you really going to do against that?
I know. There's one thing he was missing, though, this weekend.
What was that?
The vintage visor.
Ah, yes.
He wasn't wearing the visor. And I saw the Jack's Jumbo Shrimp tweeted out a picture to the Apollos, and it's a Jumbo Shrimp visor. And they said, hey, you're missing this. And the Apollos were like, all right, we'll get on that.
And that's awesome.
It was great. I love watching their interactions on Twitter.
I know it's very, very, very funny to watch, very exciting. But I really feel the Apollos of all teams are really going to do everything it takes. And even to the point to where they pulled out the good old Philly special. We're going to call it the Orlando special.
Yeah, the Orlando special.
To score a touchdown, and it was gorgeous. I tell you what, you ended up seeing the tight end come around and just throw that pass to the quarterback, and he got him right in the corner, right before the pylon. He got it right. It was such a great play. I think Garrett Gilbert is going to be in the running for league MVP this year. Bold prediction?
Oh yeah, of course. That's what we're all about.
That's all we do. Is bold predictions.
I think Garrett Gilbert. He was the quarterback. He played at MSU or SMU, excuse me, Southern Methodist. Let me correct myself. He played at SMU. He was good in college. He was part of that one of those big run and gun offenses.
Oh yes.
But I think Gilbert, with Spurrier calling the shots, and we looked at some of their roster as far as like receivers and who's on their offense, things like that. I think he's in running for league MVP.
I honestly would have to agree, but we do need to make a certain selection for favorite game, and I have a feeling we both know what this answer is going to be.
Yeah, I'm going with Orlando, man.
I'm going to have to go with Orlando.
Just because I know it's just because we're here outside of Orlando, and this is it's kind of our hometown team now.
Yes,
I think based on just pure offensive majesty.
Ooh,
yeah. That game was my favorite. But as far as pure game from all the way around, top to bottom, both sides, Arizona Salt Lake.
Honestly, Arizona Salt Lake was a very exciting game. If you want to see somebody get beat down, Orlando and Atlanta was great to watch, but Arizona and Salt Lake.
They did it everywhere. Offense, defense, everything.
Yes, in every kind of way.
Great.
Turnovers, sacks, everything. But with Arizona and Salt
It's
Lake.
nice to see a good football team in Florida.
I know, right? It doesn't always
Looking
work
at
out
you,
that way.
Jags, Bucks, and Dolphins.
Yeah, get on it, which we'll touch more on your dumpster fires later. But the big thing is that with the Hot Shots and the Stallions, that was just an exciting game. It was so close to the halftime, and Arizona still had a battle just to pull away. It was really, really entertaining, even though the stadium wasn't as full as I would have hoped, over there at Sun Devil Stadium, but it still was extremely exciting to watch.
Yeah, I think the only stadium, if I'm not mistaken, the only stadium that was really kind of full was Orlando's.
Well, when you have Steve Spurrier roaming the sideline in Florida,
yeah,
where
this is
where he's 13-1, I guess, randomly against teams from Georgia while coaching a team in Florida.
He's undefeated on opening weekends of the first season of any team he's coached.
That is hell of a stat.
I know.
Did you get that one from ESPN?
I might have. No, I pulled it off. I can't remember where it was. It was somebody. It was a sports writer on Twitter, and they literally went back through and checked all of his records of opening weekend, his first game coaching on a new team. He's undefeated.
Man, that is a stat right there. But hopefully that just leads to more wins because the good old ball coach, I think he has a lot up his sleeve still to be able to pull out. So it's going to be good. But the big thing is that we have to look at is the sustainability of all this. This is very exciting. We have some great games and, some exciting moments and have a new feel for what this is. But what is the real, long-term sustainability of this? Because if it ends up being a feeder system, we're going to end up with a lot of players that end up being fed up to the NFL. But right now, what's the percentage even right now of NFL talent in the AAF?
Well, I saw the article that Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk. He put out earlier this week, right after the games were done airing, that 81% of all the players have been under contract at some point with NFL teams, whether that's on the roster or training camp or anything like that, undrafted free agents. 81%. That, to me, that was extremely high. I was kind of surprised.
Well, yeah, that's 4/5 of the league when you look at it, and that's really surprising. But if it ends up becoming a feeder system, a lot of these guys who were in the NFL obviously are still going to have some type of consideration from NFL teams if they're able to showcase something that they want. So inevitably, you're going to see guys end up back in the NFL in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the goals for the AAF is they want to get that notoriety to tell guys like, hey, if you don't get drafted, you can still come here and you can still play high-level football.
Definitely.
And potentially get into the NFL, or guys that are trying to get back in. I think in the long term, if they do it right, it could be very, very sustainable. Short term, or as far as worst case scenario, this league lasts, 3 years tops, worst case scenario. But that's also based on if they get no attendance. We already talked about their salaries. If they start going into the red with that,
yes.
I think we broke it down. They're paying, what was it, $13 million a year?
Yes, $13 million a year.
Is that per team, correct?
I think that was for league wide.
Oh, for league wide. You're right. But yeah, worst case scenario, they could only be around for 2, maybe 3 years if they don't do things well, or if they don't get the attendance they need. Depends on what their sponsorship deals are like too.
That's going to be a big thing.
That's how teams stay afloat now.
Well, another thing too that I look at is that some of these markets will perform very well because a lot of them are like pro markets. Like San Diego, I think will do okay. Orlando will be a good market. Atlanta will be a good market. But I look at some of these other markets, and I don't know if they're going to be sustainable. San Antonio loves football because they don't get football as much as the rest of the country. And they've been vying for a team in the NFL for years. I remember at one point they I think were hosting the New Orleans Saints for a little bit during the Katrina year, and some things of that nature. But you look at San Antonio, maybe not.
I actually see, looking at these teams,
but Memphis,
Salt
Lake,
Memphis loves football, man. Tennessee loves their football.
Yeah, but I don't know if they're gonna love it if they keep losing and getting blown out, and putting up goose eggs.
Yeah, but looking at the Atlanta team, I'm not sold on saying that's going to be a sustainable team in a market. You've already got the Falcons there.
That is true.
And
Georgia Tech.
And you got Georgia Tech, and you got the Atlanta Hawks, and you got the Braves. You got all these teams there. San Diego, that's a great spot because they basically got their football team ripped away from them by the NFL.
This is true.
San Antonio, I think, is going to end up being one of the I think they're going to be one of the teams contending for a title this year with this league, and they love their sports. I love the smaller to mid-market teams like the Oklahoma Cities, the San Antonios, the Salt Lakes. I love those areas because they are very passionate about their sports.
Well,
I guess Green Bay is another one.
Well, that is true.
The only reason they have is because they've been there forever.
Well, that's the big thing is that they've been a franchise that's been so entrenched in their area that you can't imagine life without them almost. But when I look at a team like maybe even the Birmingham Iron, you have so much going on in the state of Alabama in football between Auburn and Alabama that is Birmingham really going to stay sustained if they were not to be able to keep up their winning ways?
I think they do because if there's one thing I've learned since moving down here to the South from the Great Lakes is people down here in the South love your football.
We do.
Love it. So I think teams in Texas and in the Bible Belt, if you will.
Yes.
The Bible Belt area, great places to have football teams in this league if it's not the NFL because people love football down here.
Oh, most definitely. And not to be biased, I feel like the Orlando market is going to be amazing for the Apollos because all you really have in Orlando is Orlando City Soccer and the Orlando Magic. And of course, UCF.
Yeah, you have UCF. You know how college is. It's cyclical. I don't see them being sustainable for much longer. But I think Orlando, the big reason why they are as popular as they are is because of the fact that they have a bunch of ties to Florida and Florida State. Steve Spurrier, they've been they've been marketing the fact that Steve Spurrier's their coach for just as long as the alliance has been announced.
Well, he was the first coach announced, if I'm not mistaken.
He was, yeah. So, I mean, they've already done a lot of the legwork compared to some of these other teams.
Mm-hmm.
So that's already, and I mean, Florida, yeah, you could say Orlando's not a big sports town because it's very transient. You got Disney
Right.
and all this kind of stuff. But I couldn't tell you how many people that I've met down here that are fans of some of the other teams around the state, like the Bucks fans and the Jags fans and Dolphins fans. I mean, people just love football down here. So I think Orlando's going to be I think it's going to be a big market for them here.
And I feel like for Orlando as well, it's also going to be very easy to get talent, like you said, with the Florida Connection and Steve Spurrier and all these other teams that are around. But the thing is, they do play out of Spectrum Stadium, which is on the campus of UCF. And I feel that's really going to help them, especially when it comes to attendance, because you're a bunch of college kids having some fun. What are you going to go do? Football season's over. Hey, let's go watch the Orlando Apollos.
Yeah, I don't think that's their target, but
No, definitely, probably not. But
Yeah.
you know, you're in a tourist city regardless, so
Yeah.
you're going to get a little bit of the tourists. You're going to get the football faithful. You're going to get the random students that want to come see a game. I think it'll be real good.
yeah, and with the Magic being the Magic, who usually aren't good,
Oh yeah,
it kind of competes with soccer season. You got a lot of soccer fans here, but
yes.
I think it'll still be fine. This will be one of the top. I think this will be one of the top teams as far as markets are concerned within this league.
And I definitely have to agree. And you know what? We'll just have to wait and see how things will work out. I think this could be a sustainable league that'll end up going longer than 3 to 5 years, but we'll see how it goes. But you know what? There is one thing that helps Podcast City Network keep going, and that's all of our great sponsors. So make sure you check out our great sponsors, starting off with City Limits Tap Room, located at 2620 North Woodland Boulevard in beautiful D-Land, Florida. Make sure you check them out at facebook.com/City Limits Tap Room for all their upcoming events and announcements. And we also like to thank Atlantic Sound Records, located in Daytona Beach, Florida. Make sure you check them out at facebook.com/Atlantic Sounds Vinyl, and check out their greatest selection of CDs, vinyl, cassette tape, and everything else they have. It's very, very extensive. Go check them out over there in Daytona Beach, Florida. We also like to thank our apparel provider, Sports Sanity Customs, located in downtown D-Land, Florida. Check out Sports Sanity Custom at sportssanitycustom.com for all of your apparel and branding needs. We also like to thank the actual designer of the new Podcast City Network logo, 3 Count Design. Make sure you check out 3 Count Design on Facebook at facebook.com/3 Count Design or on Twitter at the number 3 Count Design. We also like to thank Demo Blast Studios for being a big supporter of the network. Make sure you check them out at facebook.com/Demo Blast Studios or on Twitter at Demo Blast Studio for all of your different media needs. And I trust you, they do an amazing job. Also check out Kentucky Zone Wrestling, one of our biggest partners that we have with the one and only JJ McGuire. Check them out at facebook.com/Somerset Kentucky Zone Wrestling for all of their upcoming events. And of course, none of this would be made possible without Podcast City Network. Check out Podcast City Network at facebook.com/Podcast City Network or on Twitter at Podcast City Net, on Twitch at twitch.tv/Podcast City Network, and of course on our website at podcastcity.net. Tell you what, though, it's been a lot of craziness when it comes to football, because to move on from the AAF and into the NFL, we have a lot of things going on with the NFL, including the most recent announcement by a certain draftee, Kyler Murray, who has spurned the MLB and the Oakland A's to come join in the festivities of the NFL draft.
Yeah, he announced early this week on Monday, about 1 o'clock Eastern, that he is going to be all in with football. He wants to play quarterback. So he is going to be giving up his signing bonus that he received from the Oakland Athletics. It was supposed to be nearly $5 million received, but he didn't receive all of it. He only received a small portion of it. It was under $2 million that he's going to be repaying most of it back to the Athletics rather than report to spring training. He's also going to be receiving, if he's drafted in the first round, his signing bonus is going to be roughly $5 million. So, I mean, it's kind of a trade-off there. He's going to get more in the short term than he would if he were baseball. Long run, he'd probably make more there. But he's not receiving the rest of his $5 million signing bonus because it would be after he reports to spring training, and he'd be receiving it in March. I think it's around March 13th, I think the deadline was.
I believe so.
And he's not going to be receiving that. So now that he's going to be all in for football. We've been talking about this. The NFL draft coming up. Does this change anything you think in the rankings? Who do you think takes him? Where do you think he goes?
I don't know. It's really hard to tell. There's a lot of teams that need a quarterback, especially with a lot of recent moves that were announced here just recently, which we'll get to in a moment. But you look at the season that he had at Oklahoma in just his junior year, and he went off and just had a spectacular season. 260 completions on 377 attempts, which is a 69% completion rating, which is pretty good when you look at the whole landscape of college football, because there's only a few pivots that were able to pass at a higher rate than him, including Ian Book. But at the end of the day, I'm going to throw out Ian Book. Go Notre Dame. At the end of the day, though,
I think his numbers are inflated.
You think they're inflated? Come on,
Yes.
42 touchdowns, 7 picks, threw for 4,300 yards. He also had 1,000 rushing yards and 12 touchdowns on only 140 attempts, which is great for a 7.2 average.
Okay, and what did Baker Mayfield do last year? The same thing.
And look what he's doing.
Under the same coach.
But he's also taking one of the worst franchises in recent memory and actually elevating them to a level they have not seen in at least 3 or 4 years.
Because the boy's got swag.
And
I love his swag.
And the boy's making it happen because he
I love his swag.
He took the Cleveland Browns from literally, one win over 2 seasons to a 7-8-1 record. That is respectable.
Oh, yeah. I love watching him play. I loved watching him play at Oklahoma. I love him putting the flag on the field against Ohio State because I loved that. I love that. But I think those numbers are inflated, and I'll give you 2 words why.
All right.
Big 12. 2 more words. No defense.
Yes, the Big 12 is very notable for not having any style of defense whatsoever. It's more of a, hi, I'm standing here. Oh, you scored a touchdown? All right, well, I'll see you on the next series. And that's pretty much the extent of it. But at the end of the day, you don't get to the point of throwing 42 touchdowns over the course of only 14 games. That's just insurmountable. And I feel that even though maybe to a certain extent, maybe his numbers are a little inflated, but he still has talent regardless. Obviously,
he's
talent.
super talented.
Yes.
I'll tell you right now. And I know, who am I thinking of? Not the draft. Yeah, of course, someone. The Mel Kiper. They were talking about his mock drafts, and they were talking about him and Todd McShay. They had him on. I think it was a couple weeks ago. I was watching them on ESPN. And he made a great point. If Kyler Murray is a 6'3" quarterback that's been putting up those numbers, easily number 1 pick any year that you look at it. But because the fact that dude's a shortstop or outfielder. Let me rephrase that. Outfielder, and I think he's just. I mean, I'm not tall, and I think I'm as tall as he is. I think it's really going to be interesting to see how big he is if he goes to the combine. Did he get invited to the combine? I know he probably did.
He did. He will be a part of the combine now that he's officially declared for the draft. But the big thing I look at is that there's been other notable short quarterbacks who've been able to leave lasting impact in the league, including one, Drew Brees.
You're talking about 2 different play styles there, man.
It might be 2 different play styles.
He's closer to a Russell Wilson than he is a Drew Brees.
Yeah, but even Russell Wilson hasn't been the most sustainable in Seattle because he had the 2 good years where they made the 2 straight Super Bowl trips, but since then, what really has he done?
Yeah, I mean, he has no offensive line. That doesn't help.
No, that never helps.
I mean, you need an offensive line. I don't care who you are. You need an offensive line if you want to play quarterback in the National Football League.
Absolutely.
But Kyler Murray, it's going to really depend on what kind of scheme they're going to put in his offense because I don't see him standing in the pocket like a Drew Brees and throwing the ball 40, 50 times a game and being sustainable. At Oklahoma, he didn't have to read defenses like that.
No, but look at other notable guys who were dual threat quarterbacks who may not have always had the best of arms, but were still able to make great plays. The Lamar Jacksons, the Marcus Mariotas. Now, Marcus Mariota obviously is a little bit taller, but still, at the end of the day, we are seeing, I feel, a change in the NFL a little bit to where you're kind of getting a predominantly good passer that has a running ability. And I feel that's becoming a new archetype now in the NFL.
Yeah, but look at Lamar Jackson. Most of his success has come from out of the pocket, broken plays, scrambling down the field. Dan Orlovsky said it. We were watching. We were watching Will Cain's show earlier today.
Yeah, we were. Yes.
And Dan Orlovsky they played a segment that he was talking about Lamar Jackson, how he's going to succeed now that Flacco's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And in the pocket, he's not that great. Comparable to other NFL quarterbacks. Obviously, he's a hell of a lot better than I would be, but
well, no, I don't think anybody's going to draft you. So
I don't think so.
I hate to break the ice, and I'm sorry if it hurts your feelings.
I'm a hell of a flag football player, though. I can play quarterback. I can look like Kyler Murray out there. but I think that kind of play style, it's good for a couple years. I mean, Cam Newton's a great example.
Mm-hmm.
How up and down has he been? Whether it's injury, his consistency on the playing field. I mean, attitude's a completely different story. Mm-hmm. I don't know what Kyler Murray's attitude's like, but from anything that we've seen, it's all rave reviews. He's a great person, great player, great teammate. Personality. But I mean, Cam Newton is another great example of the dual threat quarterback that you talk about. I'm not even going to bring up or expand on Blake Bortles and his trash. Blake
Bortles, on the other hand, though, came from UCF, where UCF at the time was still is part of a weaker conference, even than the Big 12.
Okay.
And played against teams that were not really that stellar, the Memphis Tigers of the world, which is, when you look at that, you're not really going against great competition, and that's the thing I see with Kyler Murray is he's been able to go up against great competition, against great defenses, still staying in the pocket. All I can think of is the playoff game against Alabama, which obviously they did not win, but he was still able to stand in the pocket or at least try to make a play wherever he could and still put up respectable numbers against a vaunted defense.
All right, so what about Big Ben Roethlisberger?
Big Ben's old as hell right now.
No. You're talking about he didn't play against better competition.
All right, yeah, but Ben Roethlisberger also played for the Miami of Ohio.
Pride of the Mac, baby. Maction.
Yeah, get that
Hashtag
Red Hawks going. But at the end of the day, who did Miami of Ohio ever play?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is that's my point exactly. Is they didn't play any great competition. The MAC is all about offense. Mm-hmm. They don't play defense, and he came out and he had a little bit of help because he had a great defense, a great run game.
Yes.
But he came out and he did pretty well.
But the thing I look at with Kyler Murray, though, is that at the end of the day, he was the Oklahoma offense. He was the one being able to make all these plays. Breaks down.
I'm just poking a hole in your Blake Bortles theory. That's all I'm doing.
Blake Bortles is garbage, in my opinion.
Well, that's what I'm agreeing with. You're like, well, he went at UCF and played at a smaller school.
Yeah, but he played nobody. But the thing is, Kyler Murray
Big Ben didn't either, and he's doing well.
Of course, exactly. So why wouldn't a guy who's played against some type of competition that's a lot better than the MAC, a lot better than the AAC, and be able to find success and win the Heisman Trophy, not be able to have that translate into the NFL?
Ask Troy Smith from Ohio State. What's he doing nowadays?
Oh, he was a backup.
Oh, wait, what's Vince Young doing nowadays? What happened to him? Oh, wait, he got arrested again.
Yes, he did for a DUI in Texas, if I'm not mistaken.
Man, dude, come on, man. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Texas, I didn't want them to beat USC that year, but I hate to see stories like that.
Of course you do.
I hate to see stories like that.
You know what? He even tried to get a restart in the NFL and was even a backup for the Philadelphia Eagles a few seasons ago. But, you end up taking the path you take.
Yeah, but Kyler Murray, I could see the dude is super talented. He's got a heck of an arm. Mm-hmm. He's definitely got the legs and the speed to get outside the pocket, and I could see him at his ceiling. I could see him being like a Pat Mahomes.
He could be.
Who just was named league MVP
and lit up the stat sheet. And that's big thing.
So I think his ceiling is like a Pat Mahomes as far as talent lies. And I think from a floor standpoint, I mean, he's not an Eric Crouch. He couldn't throw.
You got to throw that name out there.
Oh yeah, but I mean, like,
that hurt.
I could see him as a worst case scenario. He's going to be like every other running quarterback that tries to play in the NFL.
There's been a lot of notable running quarterbacks who try to play in the NFL that's found some kind of success along the way. Because even though some of these players came in and may not have always had either immediate success or long-lasting success, they were able to, at some point, to find some kind of success. Even the Blake Bortles of the world. Because you know what? May not have been this past season, but the season before, where was Jacksonville? AFC Championship game.
Yeah, you can thank the defense and the running game for that one. Blake, he had a string of, I think it was 6 games where he didn't throw a pick, but
I think it was a first for him.
Yeah, in the time that he's played in the NFL, he leads the league in pick sixes. Are you kidding me?
Well, it just shows that his running backs and wide receivers can't catch the guy who ended up catching the ball. But at the end of the day, though,
it'd help if you can actually throw someone the ball.
Well, that's another story. But at the end of the day, I feel that Kyler Murray can come in. I feel he can come in and make some type of impact, but it's going to really depend upon where he lands.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big thing. Where he lands is going to be big. A lot of mock drafts have him going around Miami around 13, just because of the Ryan Tannehill situation.
Yeah.
Looking at the draft order, I don't know. There's a few quarterback situations that need to get resolved. The Giants, but I think they go with Dwayne Haskins from Ohio State.
Yes.
Obviously, Jacksonville needs a new quarterback. I don't see them. If they draft a quarterback, I swear on all that is good and holy, I'm going to go knock on their door and tell them, you might as well just hire me because I can do a better job.
More than likely. But here's the thing I look at, and I think it's very interesting, is that even though they have the number 1 pick in the draft, even though they picked up Josh Rosen last year, the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals.
Stop. I know
you already know where I'm going with this. Said that he would draft Kyler Murray first overall if he was a head coach of an NFL team and had the first pick in the draft.
Okay. To expand on that, if you are an opposing coach and your local reporters are trying to get clipboard material to help boost their careers and help, you know what I mean? Not there's no offense to that, but I mean, if you got people that are trying to get snippets from you for their media outlets, what are you going to say about Kyler Murray? I would say the exact same damn thing.
But the thing is that as we look at it, I feel with how Josh Rosen ended up playing last season. Now, obviously, Arizona had a lot of problems.
Stop, man.
Josh Rosen looked like a dumpster fire.
No, he's not. He's talented.
He didn't land in the right system to be there then. Because that's the thing I see. Josh Rosen, I feel, is already a bust. After one season, already a bust.
Stop.
You want to call it a bold prediction? I'll call it a bold prediction right now.
Get the hell out
Josh
of here.
Rosen is not going to be a winning quarterback in the NFL.
Stop.
Calling it now. But the thing is obviously, that's more of an outlandish
you're saying
selection.
is it safe to say that you're telling me he's the worst quarterback right now of the starting quarterbacks in the NFL?
I'm not going to say that, but the thing is that he is the starting quarterback for the worst team in the NFL currently.
They had a lot of problems going on, though. Take Blake Bortles out of the equation. Now, is he still the worst quarterback outside of Blake Bortles in the NFL?
Outside of Blake Bortles, yes. I right now, I would say he's the worst
Wrong.
quarterback. Who do you think?
Wrong. I can already tell you, based on this, there's already a handful of quarterbacks that are worse than him.
You can't take the backup for the Buffalo Bills.
No, Peterman. Steven Peterman. Oh, bless his heart. I think he's better than Jameis Winston.
Ooh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've never liked Jameis's game.
I've never liked it either, but I still feel Jameis brings a little bit more to the table than Josh Rosen currently.
BS. Fitzpatrick better be the starter there.
Oh, he better be, but he's not going to.
No, so I think he's better than Jameis.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's better than he's about the same level as I think an Andy Dalton, who's not terrible, but he's not gonna win you any playoff games.
Yeah.
But think about this. He's also a rookie.
I know.
Because
and
everybody falls in love with the Carson Wentz's and the Deshaun Watsons and Lamar Jacksons of the world. And
I bought a Carson Wentz jersey the first time they came out.
But I mean, come on, man. Sam Darnold got drafted last year. They're number 3 in the draft.
He got one more win than Josh Rosen.
Yeah, he also lit up my Lions in week 1 and
threw a pick on his first pass.
Yeah, and then he looked like a dumpster fire the rest of the year. But so do the Jets. The Jets are a dumpster fire.
But you know what? Maybe if there was a better supporting cast around Josh Rosen, I should say, it would be a little bit different.
So based on your logic, though, San Fran's number 2. Jimmy G, is he a trash quarterback too?
Well, no, that's a little different. He tore his ACL and was out the rest of the season. So it's a little bit different of a situation.
Using your logic against you. That's all I'm saying.
The big difference, though, is Jimmy G played a snippet of the season while Josh Rosen played the entire season. And
he didn't start the entire season.
Well, not the entire season, but he played a lot more games than Jimmy G even played in before he tore his ACL, which was a freak thing, by the way. I don't know if you saw that footage. That was very freak.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that aside, I don't think the Cardinals are going to go and pick up Kyler Murray with the first pick in the draft, regardless.
They'd be stupid to do so.
I think they still need to try and develop Josh Rosen because you know what? At the end of the day, I'd like to see Josh Rosen make me eat my words.
Oh, yeah. That dude is super intelligent. He, I think, was the best quarterback, whether it's intelligence on the field. Everyone talks about the difference between Darnold and Rosen. I was a Rosen guy. Sam Darnold's he's a good, hey, this is your prototypical rah-rah quarterback coming from USC, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to take the Rosen, who's more of like an Aaron Rodgers type personality.
Ooh.
I would take him over a Sam Darnold.
I'd have to agree with that, but I didn't like Sam Darnold anyway because he went to USC. But that's a whole nother thing.
Geez, somebody's biased.
I'm very biased. Sorry, go Notre Dame.
I don't blame you.
But the big thing
anyway.
I look at, there's a lot of teams that have needs. Now, obviously, I don't see the Cardinals doing it. The 49ers have Jimmy G. The Jets have already invested in Sam Darnold. So first 3 picks off the board, and you start looking at number 4. John Gruden has the super love for Derek Carr. He's probably literally writing up Valentine's cards for him to put in his locker once they get ready to start going into this weekend. And he's all about Derek Carr, and God love him. Derek Carr tries his heart out and it's fine. But you start getting to number 5 and later on, now we start seeing some teams that might have a realistic look.
Yeah, I think 6 is the first time, and we were talking about this earlier. The draft is very defensive player heavy. Very talented defensive players coming out. Most of the first round is going to be defensive player drafted. So I think 6 is the first you might see a quarterback. The Giants don't need to trade up because they're not going to compete with anyone but themselves.
Right.
So unless they pull a Chicago Bears situation,
I don't see that happening.
I don't see it happening either. So I think 6 is where you'll see the first quarterback taken with Haskins.
Especially with Eli. He's aging so much. He's almost done.
I think if they would have had a better situation if they would have had other pieces around him, they would have drafted a quarterback way before. A couple years ago. They've been trying to push him out for almost 2 years.
But I think they just keep trying to trust in him, and maybe it's just because of the coaching situations they've been in recently, a lot of the changes that have happened with that, offensive coordinators, everything. I feel maybe it's just put him in a position where it's like, okay, now we feel like we've gone on too long. We need to make a change. And maybe at this point they're going to try and use Eli to mentor somebody, but I don't know if it's going to be Kyler Murray.
No, it'll be Dwayne Haskins.
I think it'll be Dwayne Haskins as well.
Haskins.
And they really love him. But
he's more of a prototypical quarterback, and being in New York, I mean, you have to go with Haskins here. I think you do.
I think you do.
Outside of that, Jacksonville, they shouldn't, but if they do, it'd be a very Jacksonville thing to do.
It would.
But looking down the rest, I think the next spot that they might draft a quarterback would be 11 at Cincinnati. Andy Dalton, he's been mediocre for a long time. And with a new coaching staff, maybe they give him a year, but I don't know. Maybe they draft him. And then Dolphins at 13.
Dolphins are a big one, especially since how they announced that they were going to be moving on from Ryan Tannehill after his 6 seasons in the NFL with the Dolphins. And
how he made it this far as an NFL quarterback is beyond me.
Oh, it's very beyond me.
No disrespect to him, but when he started his career as a wide receiver, played, I think, 1 year, maybe like a year and a half at quarterback, and he went to Texas A&M, didn't he?
Yes, he was the pivot right before the famed Johnny Manziel.
Right before the Money Manziel. So yeah, I think it's about a time they need to go in a new quarterback situation, but I just don't know if Kyler Murray makes it past 13.
Well, here's the next thing you got to look at. If you look a little bit further down, obviously the Falcons are so entrenched with Matt Ryan, it's not funny. But you look at 15, the Washington Redskins, who have Alex Smith still out with his knee injury. They have no idea if they're going to have him back. Colt McCoy went down with a very similar, leg injury. Colt McCoy went down with a very similar injury, and you ended up finishing the season with Josh Johnson and Mark Sanchez himself.
The butt fumble,
who I cannot believe my Philadelphia Eagles actually picked up at one point as a backup. But that's all you have is right now is guaranteed is Josh Johnson and Mark Sanchez.
He had so much promise coming out of USC. Even Pete Carroll said he came out too early, which he did. But when he was at the Jets, they went to the AFC title game. Was it back-to-back years?
2 years in a row.
Sanchez had to do something right.
Maybe. Or maybe it was the fact that you had a decent running game with a pretty decent defense that was able to help him out.
Do you see a theme there with all these quarterbacks?
Yeah, a little bit.
The defense, the running game? Yeah.
A little bit.
But so I honestly see the Redskins doing a very Redskins thing. And they're going to go out, and I think they're going to trade for Case Keenum in Denver. I think they're going with Case Keenum.
Ooh, you know what? I think that really could happen.
That would be a very Redskins thing
Especially
to do.
seeing how the Broncos are going to want to get rid of Case Keenum, which we just saw a little bit earlier that they have announced that they are going to be trying to shop Case Keenum after getting the in-principle trade for Joe Flacco, which can't go through until March 13th with the new NFL calendar year.
Right.
So I could definitely see Case Keenum making the move to the Redskins. But as you start to look further down this list, you see a lot of entrenched quarterbacks with the Cam Newtons, the Baker Mayfields, the Kirk Cousins, the Marcus Mariotas, the Ben Roethlisbergers. You start getting really down this list, and a lot of these guys are really entrenched that I just don't see anyone else really taking a chance on Kyler Murray at this point.
I think if we get down to 15 and Kyler Murray's not picked yet, somebody at the very end, 25 to 30, will trade up to get him, but it will only be one of those QB needed teams that we already talked about. Because like you said, the rest of them all have a quarterback. They all have a quarterback that they are invested in, or they have a situation that they feel that they're okay with.
Well, here's one thing that I want to throw out there for two teams in particular, because they really don't have a future in place yet. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but the LA Chargers and the New England Patriots, both of which have aging quarterbacks who are still playing good football, but only have so much tread left on the tire.
New England takes, what's the kid? The quarterback from Duke.
Oh, I cannot even remember
Daniel
his name.
Jones. Daniel Jones, I think his name is.
I think you're correct. I'd have to look it up. But at the end of the day, I don't see the Saints taking him. The Saints actually don't even have a pick in the first round because they traded their pick to the Green Bay Packers. But they also have Teddy Bridgewater sitting in the wings behind Drew Brees, and they think very highly of Teddy Bridgewater.
I don't think that's going to pan out. I mean, Teddy was a great quarterback at Louisville. Again, kind of a Lamar Jackson kind of mold, if you will. Actually, Lamar Jackson's more of a mold of Teddy Bridgewater, but they don't see him as a long-term QB option. They're just going to run with Breeze until the wheels fall off, and then they'll figure it out from there. Just like how the Chargers have been doing with Rivers is still playing very well, by the way, but the Patriots are going to keep doing this same do-si-do with their QB situation with Brady, because Kraft will not get a new quarterback until Brady finally retires. Belichick has wanted to go in a new direction, which is why they had the whole Jimmy G controversy earlier.
Well, if you even look at it from the entire roster standpoint of what the quarterback position has been for the New England Patriots, they had Jimmy G, they had Jacoby Brissett, they've had guys that could fill in that role, and they just always end up moving on because you still have Tom Brady hanging around. Jacoby
Brissett he's a talented guy, but I think he was a product of like the who's the other QBs that they had for 1 year, went and signed big contracts and then ended up being terrible.
Including the one that actually took over for Tom Brady when he went down with his knee injury, ended up taking him to an 11-5 record. What was the name of that quarterback?
That's why I was asking you.
No, I don't even remember. But as the show goes to show, you have these guys who end up just in a Bill Belichick offense and now don't mean anything.
I know Brian Hoyer was one of them who's now still current backup again for them.
Backup again, yeah.
But he's one guy that he stepped in for Brady, did well, went and got a good contract, and then ended up doing terrible. I think they're just going to keep doing that, and I think Brissett was kind of was a product of that because he did okay in Indy. He was never going to be their long-term guy.
No. He was just a stand-in until Andrew Luck was able to come back from his injury, whether it be physical or mental. But either way, Andrew Luck at this point is back, so Jacoby Brissett is now the backup.
And he's a damn good backup there too.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, they plug him in, he'll do pretty well, but I don't know if he's
I wouldn't stake a franchise on him.
Yeah, I don't think I wouldn't either.
But the thing is, you still have the one big elephant in the room, and that's the Nick Foles situation still sitting out there, where a lot of teams might make a play for him. But now you have Nick Foles sitting out there. You have Case Keenum sitting out there. And, of course, like we had said, you have a couple quarterbacks that are going to be in this draft. So where do you think Kyler Murray is ultimately going to land?
Ultimately, I think he's going to end up with Miami, but I think there's going to be some scare tactics involved, and Miami has to trade up to go get him. So I think Miami has to trade up. I'm going to look at Detroit at 8 because Bob Quinn is from the Patriots mold. They like to trade back if they don't have a guy that they think they can get later. So I think Miami trades up to 8 with Detroit, and they will take Kyler Murray there. I don't see Jacksonville trading for a quarterback.
No, I don't
because if that's the case, Jacksonville's going to have to trade up in the top 5 to get somebody, and if they do, I'm going to throw a fit on the next show after the draft.
Which we'll see how that turns out.
And I would burn some of my Jaguars gear.
I'm sure you would. My goodness, look at you go. But honestly, the big thing I look at is that Nick Foles and Case Keenum still sit out there, and they're going to end up determining a lot of this.
Nick Foles to Jacksonville.
Oh, gosh. One could only hope if you're a Jags fan. But at the end of the day, I don't know if they're going to be able to afford him. But, hey, who knows? They might.
Well, they were willing to put in, $18 million to Blake Bortles?
That is true.
Get out. If you're not willing
18 mil for a dumpster fire, I don't think it's worth it.
If you're not willing to spend 20 to 22 million on a Nick Foles, who is miles ahead talent-wise and just as far as football IQ.
I think continents ahead.
Continents?
Continents.
Continents as in like Asia continent?
Yes,
ahead?
As in 11 time zones.
11 time zones. All right.
Yes, we'll go the Russia approach. 11 straight time zones ahead.
Okay. I've never heard that one before.
Oh, yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Well, I do what I can. But at the end of the day, I sadly will have to agree with you. I feel like Miami has the most pressing need. They've already fully announced that they are going to move on from Ryan Tannehill, which I would expect either on draft day or sometime after he's either going to be traded or released. Probably more than likely released because I don't see anybody really wanting to make a play for him unless he's going to come in as a backup. So I do see the Miami Dolphins taking him. But if Miami weren't to take him and he were to somehow magically fall to 15, I absolutely see the Redskins taking him just to help them with their quarterback situation because no matter how you look at it, Mark Sanchez ain't the answer. Colt McCoy's not the answer. Josh Johnson's not the answer.
Josh Johnson hadn't played football in almost 2 years.
There you go. And
oh, no, more than 2. I'm sorry.
No, yeah,
more
than that. Yeah. But Alex Smith may not be ready from his knee injury, but even if you want to look at it that way, that even if Alex Smith were to come back, Alex Smith does not have that much tread left on the tires.
I don't think he comes back.
I think his career's done.
They call that the Theismann injury for a reason.
Yes.
I mean,
it ends careers.
And he's at the end. He's in his mid 30s and was 34 maybe.
Yeah, because you got to remember, Alex Smith came from Utah, who was coached by who? Urban Meyer.
Trash.
Just to throw it way, way, way back to the early 2000s for you. So that just goes to show that he's already been in the league well over 10 years, and it's only a matter of time. Now, with this type of an injury, like we said, is the Theismann injury. It's going to end up ending your career. I don't see him coming back, and they're going to need an answer going forward.
Yeah, I seriously think they're going to get Case Keenum, man. I seriously think they're going to go pull a Redskins and go get Case Keenum.
I don't.
And I'm sure as an Eagles fan, you're going to be praising that and loving it when they actually do.
Oh, I will, just because we are going to make him look as bad as he did when he was in Minnesota playing against us in the NFC title game. Just to put it out there. But at the end of the day, I really feel that I think he's going to fall.
Yeah,
out of the top 10.
I don't think so. Like looking at last year, how many quarterbacks went, I ate my words, and I thought Lamar Jackson would be a 3rd round pick as a quarterback.
How'd that work out for you?
He went in the 1st round, so clearly not good. But so I didn't think anyone would trade up to get him in the 1st round. Mm-hmm. Just look at the last few years, all the runs on quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are so overvalued in today's NFL. That's why I don't see Murray falling past 13 to Dolphins. I even see them, like I said, trading up to 8 to go get him. I don't see him falling out. Definitely not out of the top 15.
Oh, definitely
but
not.
I don't think he
unless
makes it out of the top 10.
stupidity wins out.
I don't think he makes it out of the top 10.
The only way he doesn't make it out of the top 10, though, I feel, is if a team trades up. But then again, you never know what happens. The Giants might just like him enough to want to try and take that chance on him. But I feel like they're really on Haskins, and they really love Haskins. But again, we'll end up seeing where he lands. But there's another player we need to speak of who's
this?
Is going to be making a expected move now, and that's Antonio Brown, who has come out and requested a trade. And we've seen all the drama unfold. We already had to deal with the Le'Veon Bell situation, which now he's on a transition tag. And now we have to deal with the Antonio Brown situation that started devolving rapidly at the end of the NFL season and now has gotten to the point where he has requested a trade. He even made a post on Twitter saying goodbye and thanking the Steelers fan base. And it's just insane to me to think how far this situation has devolved so quickly. But now we got to see where he's going to go.
Oh, Antonio Brown, the pride of Central Michigan University in Mount Pleasant, one of the worst towns I've ever set foot in. Of course, I'm a little biased because I went to school in Kalamazoo at Western Michigan.
I was about to say.
Go Broncos. But of course, so he was a little bit. He's very, very talented. He's super, super talented. But even at Central Michigan, he had issues. He did. And I think I'm surprised it took 9 years in the NFL or 8 years in the NFL for this stuff to come bubbling to the surface.
Well, I think the only reason for that is that his level of play was able to outshadow those certain personality issues, those character issues that, like you said, came to the forefront even in college. But when you're being, able to go up and be one of the top receivers in the NFL, people are going to tend to overlook those kinds of things. Because if you're not doing drugs or beating a woman, you're not really getting looked at.
That's true. That's the unfortunate reality of the NFL.
It is.
If you're not smoking weed or beating women on a video camera, they don't care. You can just kind of do, because PEDs, nobody cares.
Nobody does.
Did you see the conversation a couple weeks ago? Right after the Super Bowl, they're talking about Julian Edelman winning the MVP. He was suspended earlier this year for PEDs. Nobody remembered that.
And now they're talking about possible future Hall of Fame ballot and all this.
There's no way. He has a great playoff playoff receiver, but
during the regular season though,
he doesn't play that much during the regular season. They don't go. They spread the ball around too much. But if you look at just kind of look at that PEDs, if he was in baseball, he wouldn't even been able to play in that championship game.
No, absolutely.
He'd been gone for the whole year.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of tells you is that these little issues that Antonio Brown has been having within the team, nobody pays attention because of his talent level, because of how well the Pittsburgh Steelers were playing for most of the better part of the last 5 years.
Most definitely.
And now you're finally see it come bubbling to the surface because now Le'Veon Bell had his situation, which still is not resolved. And Antonio Brown is he's been wanting out for a while. I don't know what the hell's going on in Pittsburgh, but Tomlin better figure it out.
Oh, he's going to have to figure it out, or he's going to end up with a way bigger issue on his hands. But at this point, he's requested the trade, so inevitably we're going to see him be moved because you're not going to want to have that kind of distraction in the locker room, especially when you're already dealing with your top running back who's already a distraction, coming out with his own rap album, sitting out the entire season, getting pictures on a wakeboard in Miami, all that kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, though, Antonio Brown's going to move because you know what's real funny about this, and maybe it just dawned on me, the Madden curse. It's funny how the Madden curse keeps rearing its ugly head year after year. This year it's Antonio Brown, and he's going to end up with a new team. Last year it was Tom Brady. He loses the Super Bowl.
Watch out, Pat Mahomes and Saquon Barkley.
They need to, because if either one of them land on the cover, something's going to happen.
One of those two is going to be on the Madden cover this year. I think it's going to be Mahomes because he was the MVP, and because of Kansas City's high-powered offense and all this kind of stuff, and Madden just likes to do that kind of stuff while putting out a crappy product every single year.
Yes.
Which I stopped buying a few years ago. And
I've bought the past two. 19 I regretted. 18 was good though.
Yeah, 18 was okay, but I'm not going to buy any more for quite a while.
Maybe
you don't
2020.
You don't need to buy you only need to buy a Madden game every 4 or 5 years now because everything's the same. It's just new faces and a few new names.
Well, that, and I have a insider with EA who actually did a little bit of work on the Madden games, and he told me with the future of how things are going to be going, it's probably not going to be that good.
Yes, I know this person.
Oh, we do know the same person.
Yes, we do. I've been told the same thing.
Hey,
really weird. But I think with Antonio Brown, he obviously wants to go to San Francisco. Mm-hmm. He's kind of made that pretty clear.
Very open about it.
Very, very open about it. But I honestly don't know where he lands because he wants to go there. They're gonna trade him, but I think Pittsburgh was their demand was a first round pick.
First or second round pick. They're leaning more towards the first round pick. But I don't know a team is going to want to give it up that's really going to be able to facilitate that with one exception.
One exception.
And that's the Oakland Raiders.
Ooh, that's an intriguing one.
Because think about it. The Oakland Raiders gave up Amari Cooper and shipped him off to Dallas,
Right.
which obviously he blew up immediately after, which thank you so much. I'm so happy I picked him up in a trade when he got traded in my fantasy team.
Yeah,
my
I did
fantasy
too.
league.
He did really well for me.
Oh, yeah, especially for those first 2 weeks. He absolutely destroyed it for me. Thank you so much. But at the end of the day, you look at the Oakland Raiders, who not only hold the 4th pick, but they also hold the 24th and the 27th pick that they were able to get from the Chicago Bears and Dallas Cowboys, respectively. But the big thing that you look at is that they're going to need a receiver. They're going to be able to need to have a big threat receiver that they lost when they lost Amari Cooper, that they lost when they went ahead and shipped Michael Crabtree out. So to be able to facilitate that, you're going to have to be able to replace it with a really big receiver who can go up and get balls. And I feel that is going to be Antonio Brown.
But he's not a big receiver who goes up and gets balls.
He can, though.
No, he can't.
They advertise that in Madden.
Yeah, he's fast, but I mean,
No.
whatever. But I don't see Gruden taking on, if he's been shipping out personalities like that, he's not going to take another one on. The only team, so San Francisco not trading number 2 to get him. Obviously, that's not going to work.
That's not going to happen.
I think a team that might be in the market for him, maybe Indianapolis. They need a receiver outside of T.Y. Hilton.
And Indianapolis would be very intriguing.
Be
for a lot of
very,
reasons.
very, very intriguing. I'm looking at the bottom of the first round. I don't see a lot of teams that be willing to trade their first round pick. Maybe Tennessee Titans, but I doubt it.
Let me throw this one out there. What about the LA Chargers?
No,
Why
they don't
not?
need to.
You have aging receivers like Keenan Allen, who's just getting broken down, has had multiple injuries over the past 3 or 4 years. And you're eventually, especially if you're going to end up getting a young quarterback at some point in the next year or two, you're going to need something for him to throw to.
Well, if you're trying to win right now, then yes, you can probably go get him. But I mean, they got Mike Williams, who they just drafted within the last couple years. They still have who's their tight end that he was hurt all year, but he's coming back next year.
Oh yes.
Hunter.
Yes, Hunter Henry.
Hunter Henry. Yep. So I think if they're trying to go win right now, okay, maybe they go get him. But yeah, they got Keenan Allen.
He's had the injuries,
but he's only 26.
Yeah, but you look at the fact that he's 26 and he's had an ACL tear. He's had I think it was an Achilles injury, and he's had another injury on top of that. I just don't see that being sustainable.
But they still got Travis Benjamin, who's productive. Mike Williams is their cornerstone at the receiver spot. Virgil Green, who's a good veteran. Antonio Gates is just there for selling tickets. Hunter Henry is going to be coming back, hopefully fully healthy. Austin Roberts is a good player that was a rookie this past year. So,
but if you think about it, the LA Chargers are now trying to get over the hump. They ended up losing to the Patriots in the divisional round, and were able to get back to a 12-4 season. Phillip Rivers only has so many years left. If you're in a win now mode, getting a guy like Antonio Brown, especially with the running back situation that you have, it would be a perfect offensive weapon to add to make it a complete offense that could literally probably bowl over any defense in the league.
Yeah, I think more Indianapolis Colts would go that route with him.
Yeah, because they really don't have a lot outside of T.Y. Hilton, I feel like, anymore. Like, they have a decent running back stable going on, especially with Marlon Mack and stuff like that. But
they got Eric Brickhands Ebron, who I give him that nickname because he dropped so many passes in Detroit, and I had to trudge through watching him play. But he's played really well for the Colts this year, which I was super surprised and a little upset about it because what the hell? Mm-hmm. How could you not play well better for us? But they only have T.Y. Hilton, who's an undersized guy. He's hitting the apex of his career. Maybe they go get him, but I don't see anyone trading in the first round to go get him. Maybe a second, but where would you send him if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers?
If I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, I feel like one place I would send him would be the Houston Texans.
Why is that?
Well, you look at it, the Houston Texans are in a position now where they went 11-5 last season. They have a quarterback that's developing into a great pivot. And really, receiver-wise, all you really have is DeAndre Hopkins. Now, Will Fuller's great. I love Will Fuller. Did great things at Notre Dame. But Will Fuller is already being labeled as an injury-prone wide receiver, and that's something that's really going to haunt him. He has the speed, but he doesn't really have the size. Now, you get a guy, though, that's like Antonio Brown, opposite of DeAndre Hopkins. Now you're going to have to figure out with your defense who the hell you're going to double cover, because no matter who you double cover, the other one's going to be able to win in one-on-one matchups.
If I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm trading him anywhere in the NFC.
Anywhere that's not in the AFC?
Anywhere not in the AFC. And here's a crazy thought to put out there.
Okay.
Why not the Carolina Panthers?
Ooh, that would be very intriguing.
Super intriguing. They have some receivers, but I mean they drafted Devin Funchess a few years ago, who played tight end, converted receiver at Michigan. He's a good guy, but he's not a number one receiver. I love him, but he's not a number one receiver.
He's definitely not.
I would say trade him to Carolina.
That'd be very intriguing. Honestly, that would
And
take
you'd
the
never have
NFC
to see
South by
him.
storm. Yeah, you'd never see him because I don't remember even a
You
time.
play once every 4 years, maybe.
Exactly, and
he ain't gonna be around for that much longer.
No,
he's been 9 years in the league. He's probably 30? He's got to be
roughly
30,
yeah.
roughly. So he's not gonna be playing that much
30.
longer as a wide receiver.
Yeah, he probably has maybe at least maybe 3-4 years, I think, at max. Maybe a couple more if he ends up staying, nice and healthy. But you got to think Cam Newton with a healthy shoulder now. He just had a surgery on that shoulder in this offseason.
They have a decent offensive line, decent run game. I don't know.
Defense isn't too bad. You still have Kuechly running back at middle linebacker and stuff like that. Kuechly.
We're gonna have a quiz with you.
We're gonna have to do a name quiz.
We're gonna have to do a name quiz with you. This is gonna be great. I can't wait. I'm doing this next show.
I hope a score over 50%.
I'm just gonna get a list of names that you've never seen before, and I'm just gonna quiz you and see if you pronounce them correctly.
Well, they at least have to be mainstream.
Well, no, we did the NBA last week, and you did terrible.
Yeah, that was a dumpster fire on top of a dumpster fire.
But all right, so you would send him to.
I send him to Houston.
You send him to Houston. I say send him to Carolina, anywhere in the NFC where you're not going to see him.
Well, if you want to send him anywhere in the NFC, let's go ahead and send him to the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll just make it work.
Oh, sure, yeah. Like
opposite of Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah. Would you trade Nick Foles for him?
Ooh,
because they need a quarterback.
You know what? Ben Roethlisberger's aging, and they're going to need one. So
would you trade him?
I would trade him.
Or would you trade Carson Wentz?
No. Carson Wentz, he may not quite be the leader Nick Foles is. He might not be quite to the level of what Nick Foles is in certain IQ. But Carson Wentz is going to be the future of that franchise. Wow. Give it a few years. I think it'll be all right.
Yeah, all right.
He didn't end up rattling off 11 wins for nothing.
That's true. Well, speaking of players wanting to be on the move or being on the move, Kareem Hunt signed with the Cleveland Browns earlier this week.
Very surprising. A lot of teams were interested in him, but given all of his legal outside issues, most notably the video that surfaced of him striking a female in a hotel lobby.
Did you watch that video?
I did, and honestly, it's not a Ray Rice situation.
Right. I obviously we don't condone that kind of behavior or anything like that, but that wasn't nearly as bad as like a Ray Rice or some of the other ones we've seen.
Most definitely.
Like who's the Florida State kid that got ejected because he punched a chick in the face at the bar?
Oh my goodness!
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, isn't that the one that ended up on that? What was that one show?
Not Francois.
No, not Francois. Not Francois. Oh, I can't even remember now.
We'll have to figure it out.
We'll figure it out. We'll bring it up maybe on Fun Facts on another show.
Yeah. So speaking of that Kareem Hunt situation, so he got the 1-year contract. His base salary is for the minimum with nothing guaranteed. He can get just over $1 million with workout bonuses and per game roster bonuses. So basically, he has to be on the roster to make any money.
Makes sense.
So with that said, GM John Dorsey said there's no guarantees on the contract that they agreed to. Mm-hmm. So with that said, first of all, how many games is he suspended, do you think?
Well, if you look at the situation, especially at other players that went through a similar situation like Ezekiel Elliott, for instance, I think it starts out at 6 games, ends up being reduced to 4.
I'm with you. I think there's going to be a lot of outcry. He needs to suspend it for more games, so he's going to get the 6 or 8 or something like that for half the season. But it'll get knocked down. It always gets knocked down. I think it goes to 4 as well.
Even if they don't look at the severity of it as a more realistic thing, because with Ray Rice, he straight knocked a chick out.
Yeah.
Right in an elevator. But with this, it was kind of like, I kind of just lightly kicked you and stuff like that. But if you make a zero tolerance of it, 6 games, it'll end up being reduced to 4. But Kareem Hunt, we saw what he can do in a backfield, and I feel that could be an amazing addition to a Cleveland Browns team that at this point might look like they could actually challenge for the AFC North.
So yeah, I've got their schedule here. We're looking at it, and it's already got like spreads and everything on it. It was really interesting.
Oh wow!
But so I think it's going to be really interesting because you see a lot of teams in the league that are very successful have more than one running back that can do multiple things for you.
Right.
So this is definitely going to impact Nick Chubb, who had a breakout year once he got the starting job when I forget his name now. He went to Jacksonville, the running back, Carlos Hyde.
Yes.
When Carlos Hyde left, Chubb really showed up and he played really well.
Oh, most definitely.
So Kareem Hunt, I think he's going to take that starting spot from Chubb. So I think Chubb will turn into like a Duke Johnson kind of thing where he plays third down, do some spells.
Third and short, goal line.
But I'm looking at the schedule for 2019 and who they're playing. Obviously, they play all the people in their own division. I think they could beat Cincinnati twice.
Oh, most definitely.
Baltimore and Pittsburgh, I think they can split.
I think they'll split both if they don't end up with another tie.
I think so. No, I think depending on who Pittsburgh has, if they don't have Bell or Brown, I think they can split with Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Or they might be able to squeak out 2 wins against them.
Is that a bold prediction?
No. I don't trust Cleveland like that.
No, not yet.
Baltimore, I think they can split or they'll lose both. They only play 3 winning teams next year with winning records. Baltimore twice, New England, which is at New England, and then home against the Rams and the Seahawks. Both of those are losses.
Yes, but the big one is that their hardest test is probably going to be on the road against the Patriots. But beyond that, everything looks like a decently winnable game.
Yeah, outside of that, the road games are at New England, at the Jets, at Arizona, and then at San Fran. That's a tough game to go West Coast. But they have home games against Buffalo, Miami. I think they could win both of those games. And I think they lose both games against Seattle and LA Rams. Denver and Tennessee are down there as well. I think they can beat Tennessee. I don't know about Denver. It really depends on how Flacco starts playing.
That's the
Their
thing.
defense is still good.
It is.
But they don't have any receivers anymore outside of Emmanuel Sanders.
No, and they only have the one running back who ended up being a breakout star this year for them.
Talking about Philip Lindsay?
Yes, Philip Lindsay.
Well,
he
they
was a Pro Bowler.
Well, they have Devontae Booker, too.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just don't see Denver being able to get a lot of traction going to start their season. I see they'll do better than last year, but I still feel that they're going to end up stumbling to an 8-8 or a 9-7 record.
So we'll have to see what happens there with Kareem Hunt, but I think if he can play, if he only gets suspended for 4 games, then I think he can have a huge impact on Cleveland's chances for the upcoming season.
Oh, definitely. But you know what? Shout out to him, and hopefully he's able to get back on the field and play because, having any type of off-the-field issue can usually derail a career in some instances. But I feel he should be able to come back from this. And even if he only plays 1 year with Cleveland and ends up going on somewhere else, I feel it'll help kickstart his career.
Which is what I think will happen.
Most definitely. But speaking of shout-outs, we definitely need to give a shout-out to all of our Podcast City Network programs that we have that are part of this great network, including The Everett Lee Show, ELS Uncut, Wrestle Popcast, The Chris Carnage Show. Hey, that's a good show. Deathmatch Wrestle Podcast, The Super Radio Brothers, of course, our great special Draft Day, The Deleted Wrestling Podcast, Imaginarium with Scott and Todd, Bear Claw Survival, Robin Nelson's Files 13, Films of Classic, the Phoenix Gate Podcast, and of course, Ranting and Raving. And at the very end of all that, Final Score.
We got a lot of great shows on the Podcast City Network.
We really do, and the numbers keep growing. A little snippet, I actually talked to some of the owners because one of them is, me. And we have a lot of plans and a lot of new shows people don't even know about that are going to be coming out. So make sure that you keep your eyes glued in. If you want to check out all of our great shows and all of their social media outlets, make sure that you go on to podcastcity.net, click right on their logo, right on the homepage to go to their very specific page on podcastcity.net, and make sure you check out all the social media tags that we have listed for them. And make sure you check them out. Go give them a like. Go give them a follow. Go drop them a line. I'm sure they would love it. But definitely make sure that you support all of our great programming. Of course, the Podcast City Network. But, we're going to shift gears here now, and we're going to talk about something that's upcoming, and that is good old spring training in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I know we'll make this one quick because I know you're not much of a baseball guy. I like baseball. I like going to baseball games.
Yeah.
But we'll kind of make this one quick because I know I personally want to get to the NBA.
Oh, yes.
But we can't go on with the show without at least touching on spring training since it kicked off this week.
Mm-hmm.
Every team's, all the pitchers and catchers reported, and spring training games are right around the corner, starting, I believe, this weekend. If I'm not mistaken.
It is this weekend, yes.
So this weekend or early next week. So as far as that is, I was looking at the odds-on favorites of who's going to win the World Series in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
The top four, Astros and Red Sox, are 6-1, and the Dodgers and Yankees are 7-1. So, and then after that, you got the Cubs and Indians are 10-1. The Braves and the Brewers are 12-1. Braves are kind of a surprise. I know they were a big surprise last year. They played really well for a they're one of the youngest teams in baseball, and they played really, really well.
Which I have a really close friend of mine who's such an avid Braves fan, so he's always hitting me up with all kinds of stats and things like that. And I had never seen him so excited going into a season like last year, just because the Braves in history's past was a great franchise and was able to even squeak out a World Series, but they haven't really been anything since.
I know they've really struggled since their heyday in the 90s, and it's really nice to see good baseball fan bases get rejuvenated by having a good young core. And I think Atlanta is going to be they'll be a really good team. I don't think they're going to be in line to win the pennant by any chance in the NL. No. But we'll see. So looking at these, who's your pick? If you were a betting man, who would you put your money on?
I mean, I'm not biased or anything, but I'd have to go with the defending World Series champions, the Boston Red Sox.
The defending undisputed champion Boston Red Sox.
Where's Paul Heyman? We need to get him on the phone and get him representing.
You just heard him. I'm a Paul Heyman guy.
I'm a Paul Heyman guy too. But looking at these odds, who do you have winning it?
The easy pick would be the Astros, but I think either way, I'm gonna go long shot here.
Oh man, bold prediction?
Not like long shot. It's gonna be a bold prediction.
So semi-bold.
Semi-bold. And of course, a lot of this depends on where Machado and Harper end up, which definitely. I'll briefly talk about that in a minute. But I think, oh man, this is gonna hurt me to say it.
Say it.
I'm going with the Cardinals.
Oh man, Cardinals are at 16-1 odds to win it.
16-1. So they just win. That's all they do. That seriously, they have. There's years where they were supposed to be the bottom of the NL Central, and they somehow win the division. So I think if the Cubs don't go out and get either Machado or Harper, I think that opens up the NL Central because they're good, and they're really good. I love to see the Cubs good, but the Cardinals are always there. The Brewers are in that division as well. I'm a little, I'm gonna be dead wrong on this pick, and I know I'm gonna be, but the Cardinals always find a way to make the playoffs and get to the NLCS, and then sometimes they make it to the World Series.
You know, it's funny. I can remember one of those recent times in the World Series that they played. Oh, who was it? Oh, yeah. The Boston Red Sox.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Tigers. They did beat my Tigers for the World Series winner.
They did.
But the Tigers, and plugging my Tigers here, they are a whopping 200-1.
Ooh.
They have less than a 1% chance to make the playoffs.
And there's only one team worse than that.
Well, the Royals are down there, too. The Marlins are tied at 200-1 also. The Baltimore Orioles at 300-1 is the bottom end.
Don't count out the Marlins. They got new threads and new logoing this week, so
they did.
You never know.
It looks slick, but we'll see what happens.
You can look slick, doesn't mean you're going to play as well.
That's true. Have you ever been to the Miami Marlins Stadium, the Marlins Park?
I have not, but I had a good close friend of mine who actually worked there for a year selling luxury boxes, and he said it really is a very beautiful stadium.
It is. I was there for a game last year. It was great. I was down there for work and got to go see a game. I bought a ticket, I think, last minute. I was right behind the dugout, like 2 rows behind the dugout.
Oh, wow.
And there was nobody around me. There's nobody around me.
Miami Marlins.
I know. I think it was against like the Pittsburgh Pirates or something.
Oh, even more so of a dumpster
Even
fire.
more so, yeah. So I think, they got to get people in the game, but it's so tough because Miami's there's so much to do, you know.
Yeah, there's so many other exciting things to do than go to a Marlins game. Anyways, but to look at free agency real quick with the Machado Harper situation, I'm very, very surprised that both of these men, even to this point, have gone unsigned.
Yeah, it's really shocking because Bryce Harper had a contract put in front of him by the Nationals last year in October. It was 10 years, $300 million. And he turned it down so that he could become a free agent. So he can still sign with Washington, but I definitely don't see him getting that big of a contract. Of course, all the owners are going to say that, it's just, we don't want to spend that kind of money, this and that. They make up all these excuses, but I think what you're really seeing is a lot of these teams, and this article that I was reading on CBS Sports and the MLB, trying to see who's got Dan Perry, one of the writers that covers MLB, was talking about the free agency, and a lot of teams are tanking because baseball is such a swing for the fences.
No pun intended.
Yeah, World Series or bust because the playoff system is so slim. I mean, you only get was it 4 teams that make the playoffs? 4 or 5 teams because you have the wild card play-in game. And then you have
which is a newer aspect of it.
Only
as well.
A few years.
Yeah.
So you only had 4 teams that made it in for a long time. So basically, if you're not one of the top 8 teams in the MLB, what's the point?
You're outside looking in every year.
Yeah, every single year. So that's why the teams like my Detroit Tigers, they're always struggling every single year because even the years they tried to go get guys, something happened. It's very tough to win in a World Series in baseball. It's a long season, lots of injuries. Then you got to do the playoffs. So, I mean, I think it's because a bunch of teams are trying to tank and just build up all these prospects and hope they maybe get good. I don't know.
It could be, but at the end of the day, though, these 2 players, most notably, are going to be signed somewhere because you can't have talent like this just walking around in free agency going unsigned. So at the end of the day, where do you see Harper and Machado landing?
Harper, so he's got interest from the Phillies, the Giants in San Francisco, the Padres, the White Sox, and of course the Nationals. There was a lot of talk that he might sign with the Phillies right out of free agency, right out of the gate, him and Machado. One of the things we saw earlier today is the Giants are apparently very close to getting his services.
That'd be very big.
That'd be interesting. I could see them pulling a move like that. I really don't know though. I've been trying to drum up and try to figure out where people are going to be. I don't know. As far as Machado's concerned, he had that contract with the White Sox on the table. I don't know if that's still on the table or not. That dude's kind of a head case, so he's talented, but you don't want to deal with his off the field antics. So I have no idea where they're going to land.
I feel like at this point, when you've seen these 2 players at the caliber they are, just keep going unsigned, it really is hard to tell where either one of them are going to land. Just because, like you said, with Machado, it's a head case. With Harper, he is starting to get a little older. But it's just, you don't know where they're going to land because they keep going unsigned. Now, here's the big question. Do you think they get signed before we hit the regular season?
Oh, definitely. Someone's going to sign, especially with I think it takes this is the first week of spring training. Give it about 2 more weeks. End of the month, I think by early March, you'll see both of these guys get signed somewhere. Definitely Harper.
Most definitely.
Yeah, Machado. I think he'll get signed. He's too talented not to play somewhere.
That's what I'm saying.
For a contender.
Especially like how you said, it's the World Series or bust, so you're going to need all the talent you can get to try and climb into that top echelon to try and contend. Yeah,
I mean, you have to, unless you have a really good farm system and you can trade a bunch of players to get some key cogs in the wheel. But we'll see what happens. I think the end of the month, that's when you'll see both of these guys sign.
I think I'd have to agree, but you know what? There is one thing that helps us keep going and helps everything keep making the world go around for the Podcast City Network. And that's our great sponsors. So make sure you check out all of our great sponsors, including City Limits Tap Room in beautiful D-Land, Florida at 2620 North Woodland Boulevard. Make sure you go check out City Limits at facebook.com/City Limits Tap Room for all of their great upcoming events and all the great things they have going on. And also make sure you check out Atlantic Sound Records over in Daytona Beach, Florida at facebook.com/Atlantic Sounds Vinyl. Check out their great assortment of vinyls, cassette, CDs, posters, all kinds of craziness they have down there. It is so much to look at, so make sure you go check them out. And also check out our apparel provider, Sports Sanity Customs, for all of your apparel and custom branding needs in downtown D-Land, Florida. Make sure you go check them out online at sportssanitykcustom.com. You can also check out 3 Count Design, the actual designer of the Podcast City Network logo that we are using currently.
Great new logo, by the way.
Oh, yes, it is gorgeous looking. So make sure you go check them out at facebook.com/3 Count Design or on Twitter at the number 3 Count Design. And if you mention Podcast City Network, because I forgot to mention this earlier, you mention us, you get a 10% discount. So make sure you go check them out for all of your logo needs. Also check out Demo Blast Studios for all of your media needs. Check them out at facebook.com/Demo Blast Studios or on Twitter at Demo Blast Studio. And also check out our great partners, Kentucky Zone Wrestling at facebook.com/Somerset Kentucky Zone Wrestling for all of their latest events. And of course, none of this would be made possible without Podcast City Network. So make sure you check out Podcast City Network on Facebook at facebook.com/Podcast City Network and give us a like. Go over to Twitter at Podcast City Net, Podcast City Net, and give us a follow. And twitch.tv/Podcast City Network. Give us a follow there too. And of course on our website at podcastcity.net. Tell you what, that's always a mouthful to say.
Yeah, I'm surprised you don't already have that pre-recorded. I mean, that's what happens
at this point.
That's what happens when you do it live.
You know, it's just because we keep getting so many sponsors and things going on. You know, it's just always hard to keep up with having a recorded version.
Yeah, it's part of a growing brand, so it's gonna be fun.
It is. So
a lot of great sponsors.
So just stick with me, fumbling every now and then. But you know what? I will get it out because I have to. I've been yelled at by my partner. I just have to do it.
Yeah, it's so nice. We plugged him twice.
So nice. We plugged you twice, and now we get to move on to NBA news. What we got going on in the NBA?
All-Star Weekend's coming up this weekend. Actually.
Oh snap!
This weekend. So it's one of my favorite weekends of the year. Being an NBA fan, lifelong basketball fan. I love the All-Star Weekend. It's a showcase for the fans. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of fun. You get to see things like the skills challenge, the 3-point competition, the dunk, and of course the dunk competition and the All-Star game.
Which it is in a different format in its second year. What can you tell us about that?
Right. So they pick captains and they go ahead and draft. They'll pick team captains. Last year it was LeBron and Curry. So LeBron James and Steph Curry. They drafted kind of like a playground style where they draft their team based on a pool of players. And it ended up being a pretty fun game. The game was in the 140s, but it actually in the fourth quarter it was actually a pretty competitive game. They actually played defense.
Defense?
Crazy. Yeah, they actually played defense in an All-Star game. It was great.
Wow.
This year you're looking at Team LeBron. The starters are LeBron, Durant, Kyrie, Kawhi Leonard, and James Harden. And then on the bench, they got Anthony Davis, Klay Thompson, Damian Lillard, Ben Simmons, LaMarcus Aldridge, Karl Anthony Towns, Bradley Beal, and Dwayne Wade. Of course, some of those guys are players that LeBron has played with, others that he's been tampering. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't say that word.
Tampering.
Players that he wants to play with. But on the other side, you got Team Giannis. You got Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Antetokounmpo?
We're going to quiz you. Stephen Curry, Joel Embiid, Paul George, and Kemba Walker. And on the bench, they have Chris Middleton, Nikola Jokic, Russell Westbrook, Blake Griffin, D'Angelo Russell, Nikola Vucevic, and Kyle Lowry and Dirk Nowitzki. As far as, I think it's going to be a fun game. It's fun every year. It's really going to be, I think it's going to be a lot like last year, which is going to be a super high scoring game, but it'll come down to last couple minutes. They probably are going to play some defense.
I'm all for it.
It'll be a lot of fun. I really love Joel Embiid in his personality. I think he's going to have a lot of fun with this game. Mm-hmm. I know Team LeBron won last year, but looking at this, I'd have to go with Team LeBron again, honestly. I think they got too much talent. They got a lot of guys that can do a lot of different things.
Definitely
so that's who I'd go with. I go with Team LeBron again.
Team LeBron. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and go against you just because I want to, and I'm going to pick Team Giannis. Just because I can't pronounce his last name.
There's 3 players at least on this team that you cannot pronounce their name. It's great.
Well, we're going to try, and I'm going to end up taking a quiz at some point, and hopefully I get at least 50% because I think that's about the best I'm going to be able to do.
You're going to fail. I'm already going to say that right now. You're going to fail. It's going to be great. But the game is kind of the cap of the whole weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So the fun part for me is watching the skills challenge, the 3-point, and the dunk contest. Even though the dunk contest hasn't been great the last, decade.
I mean, there's only so much you can do dunking-wise, and I feel like they did hit that top echelon a decade ago. So what are you going to do at this point?
Yeah, after Vince Carter and Jason Richardson, I think we got spoiled with great dunkers. So.
Oh, we did. But, unless you have somebody dunk from the rafters, I don't think it's going to happen.
Right. In the skills challenge, so it's Jason Tatum, Trae Young, Luka Doncic, Mike Conley, Kyle Kuzma, De'Aaron Fox, Nikola Jokic, and Nikola Vucevic. I'm going to pick...
I can say Vucevic.
Vucevic, yeah?
Yeah. I can say, well, he is part of the Magic.
He is part of the Magic, though.
So that's a little different.
I'm going to take Luka Doncic in this group.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm a Luka Doncic guy. I think he's super talented. I think he's going to be one of the new faces of the NBA in the next couple of years. I think he's going to win the skills challenge. I think the next closest person will probably be, I'll say De'Aaron Fox. He's probably going to come in second. I think he'll come in second.
I'm going to go take a long shot. I'm going to say Jason Tatum.
That's a good pick, though.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good pick. I don't know. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch. But I'm taking Luka Doncic. You got Jason Tatum. 3-point competition, it's loaded this year.
Oh, very
There's
loaded.
so many players, and all the players that are in it are great 3-point shooters. So Devin Booker, the Curry brothers, Seth and Stephen, Danny Green, Joe Harris, Buddy Hield, Damian Lillard, Chris Middleton, Kemba Walker, and Dirk Nowitzki. Who would you pick out of that group?
That is such a loaded group. But you know what? I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna say it's gonna be Damian Lillard.
Dame Lillard, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going Devin Booker.
Ooh, that's a good one. That would have been my second pick. But
he's a great 3-point shooter. He's great. Last year's winner was Devin Booker.
Funny enough.
Weird. Yeah, last year's winner was Devin Booker.
That's the thing. I don't feel he's going to repeat. I think it's going to be somebody new.
Yeah. Steph Curry's a great 3-point shooter, but he hasn't never done well in this competition.
No, he hasn't.
He's more of a game shooter.
Exactly.
Really
in
good.
the moment when he needs to make the shot, that's the guy you want.
But he is damn good at it.
He most definitely is. But this is a 3-point contest, so
right.
I think he's just going to be having fun.
Yeah, and then to cap off the Saturday night festivities with the slam dunk contest, only 4 contestants this year. So you got Dennis Smith Jr., Miles Bridges, because they're playing in Charlotte, so you usually get one hometown guy,
of course,
or one hometown team guy. Diallo, Hamidou Diallo. And
Hamidou Diallo. See, I can say that one.
Yeah, and John Collins. I don't know too much about this group.
Is John Collins related to Phil Collins?
Very distantly.
Very distantly. I thought so.
Yeah, very, very distantly. So out of this group, I'm going to pick... man, this is tough because I don't think they're all great dunkers.
No, they're definitely not.
I like Dennis Smith, but that's really the only one I've ever watched play. Miles Bridges, he went to Michigan State. I don't think he's a creative dunker. I'm going to go John Collins.
John Collins. Interesting. You know what? Just because I like the name, Hamidou Diallo, I'm going to go with him.
Hamidou Diallo. And if we're butchering that name, we apologize.
I apologize so much because I do this regularly.
It's one name that I actually don't know. Last year's winner, Donovan Mitchell, elected not to return this year, which is disappointing because he would have been my pick.
Oh, yes. He would have been really good.
So that's going to be the All-Star weekend. And, of course, we have the game that we just kind of covered for who's on what team and who's going to win. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But the other thing about All-Star break is it's a chance for players to rest. It's also players that have just passed the trading deadline.
Yes.
Get their buyouts. They get to sign with new teams. So with that, the big one today was Enes Kanter, who got released by the New York Knicks after the trade deadline, or at the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
He signed with the Portland Trail Blazers today.
Ooh.
No word on the contract details as of this recording, but he did choose them over the LA Lakers. Apparently he had a lot of suitors. LA was in the running, and he chose to go to Portland instead.
Interesting.
Yeah, so this year he's he had some declining minutes in New York. He was unhappy with his role and with the direction of the franchise. Shocker. So was
Big shocker.
So was the Unicorn. He didn't like it either, so they shipped them both. He's averaging 14 points, 10 rebounds in 25 minutes a game. He's doing really well. He's actually, I believe, 8th in the NBA in rebounding this year. So that's going to be a really good bolster to their front court. He's going to play the backup center position for now. And Portland, this is a good move for them. They are tied in 4th for the standings as of this broadcast. They're tied with the Houston Rockets. So they're trying to fight for a first round home court playoff spot, and that'll be really interesting to see if they stay at 4, if they kind of fall a little bit. We'll see what happens with that with Enes Kanter going to Portland.
You know what? We just got some news in just now where the Trailblazers actually just beat the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah,
as of this recording, anyways.
As of this recording, yeah. So if you can't tell, we're a little late night recording, but and then that game is always a good little rivalry, and the Blazers are trying to they're trying to gain respect. So no one's talking about the Blazers for the last couple of years, and they're trying to gain respect. So of course they're going to they're going to be a little chippy, and I guess that game definitely got a little heated tonight.
Oh, most definitely.
And it was in Portland, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it looks like it definitely was, and I just can't believe the point spread on this. That the Trailblazers won by 22.
Well, I think that probably came down to judging by what we're seeing here in the highlights, I think it kind of came down to players got thrown out. Klay Thompson got thrown out, getting a technical foul. I'm sure Coach Kerr got ejected too.
Oh yes, sure.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened on the home court in Portland. That kind of doesn't surprise me.
No, it doesn't surprise me either. But it's always a heated affair between those two. But
yep.
I feel the Trailblazers right now are really trying to make a push because, like you said, they haven't really been relevant in a while, and it's nice to see because way back they even made a finals appearance, if I'm not mistaken, at one point.
Back in the 90s, yeah.
Yeah, it was back in the 90s.
With Clyde the Glide.
Exactly. And now you're sitting here where Trailblazers might be able to actually get on the cusp of maybe trying to make another run. And I'm sure their fan base is just loving every moment of this. This
is a conversation for another time, but I really wish the NBA would just scrap the East-West thing and go by regions of the country and basically just take the top 16 teams, East or West, and pit them together in one big playoff bracket.
Oh,
and it was
like a March Madness.
Yes and no.
Just obviously on a more reduced scale.
On a more reduced scale, because one of these episodes, I'll show you this article that I've read and followed up with for a couple years now.
Oh wow!
And it's very detailed on how the NBA could do this and do it well.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely have to make that for a future episode.
The East is way too weak. The West is way too loaded. I mean, the NBA's got to do something about it.
They have to. There always ends up being a lot of disparity, and it's usually because now you end up seeing these players try to all come together on super teams, it seems like, to try and become something that's really powerful, which most notably the most recent team to do that would be Golden State. And it's just I feel like hurting the sport at this point.
I'm on the other side of that. I don't think it does hurt the sport because you look at the NBA, these super teams, this one is a little different because LeBron and them did it first with the free agent signings.
Yes.
Back in the day, it used to be drafting players and end up being super teams.
Mm-hmm.
The Celtics in the 60s. You had the Lakers in the 80s. You had, again, the Celtics in the 80s.
Yes,
the 90s, you had the Bulls. In the 2000s, you had the Lakers again having kind of a super team and having the three-peat that they had.
Right.
But it's not an uncommon thing in the NBA. It's just the way that it's been going about by the teams this decade or this past decade or two. It's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Warriors drafted most of their players other than KD, and now they've just been signing guys to come in and kind of bolster their roster. But it just goes in cycles. It's a regular thing.
Maybe I'm just biased because Orlando's been hurting for 10 years now, so it kind of leaves us on the outside looking in.
They had their shot with Shaq and Penny, man.
Yeah, we had another shot too, even with Dwight. But how'd that work out?
I think Shaq and Penny had a better shot.
They probably did, realistically.
But if Shaq wouldn't have had too many people in his ear.
Yeah.
He kind of got his ego got hurt.
Oh yes, most definitely.
His soft ego at the time, which you've ever watched a documentary about Shaq and Penny?
Oh, absolutely.
Great documentary.
Very great.
But his ego at the time kind of got the better of him. He didn't feel like he was completely loved in Orlando, and his agent basically wanted to go to LA. And then, of course, Penny gets hurt, and that's kind of the end of it.
Yeah, that's how everything goes, because then we ended up being in the basement for so many years. All I can remember is once we got into the 2000s, having to play with Steve Francis and crap like that, where we're only getting 20 or 30 wins a season. Oh, wait, that sounds like now, doesn't it? Well, we do what we can. But anyways,
Yep.
I tell you what, it's been a very, very packed episode. I think we've broached over 2 hours now.
Yeah, the only other notable signing that I'll kind of point out here is Wayne Ellington was part of the Miami Heat trade to the Phoenix Suns. They waived him. He cleared waivers. He went to Detroit, which is kind of a little head scratching to me because Detroit is on the 8th seed currently as of tonight, and they're still like 3 games under 500. And I'm a little surprised here, but he's known for his 3-point shooting, which is what they needed. And he's averaging just over 8 a game. He's going to take over the place of Reggie Bullock, who was just traded away, who again was another 3-point shooter, but they traded him away to the LA Lakers. But as part of this deal, they also had to waive Henry Ellenson, which is a guy that they should have gotten rid of a long time ago.
Oh, yes.
They never should have drafted him in the first place, but that's neither here nor there. So that's the only other real signing of note as of our broadcast tonight. So that's about it for NBA news.
That is it. And I tell you what, we're going to go ahead and use that as the close for our show today. And thank you so much for joining us. Again, make sure that you check out Final Score on Facebook at facebook.com/PCN Final Score. Give us a little like, give us a little share. Hey, even leave us a little comment. We'll make sure to even respond. So make sure you check us out there. And also hop on over to Twitter at PCN Final Score. Give us a follow. Check out some of the great stuff we have. Maybe even a retweet. Hey, drop us a line. We'll definitely respond to that too, because we love interacting with our fan base. But definitely make sure you also check us out on podcastcity.net for all of our latest episodes. Craig, thank you so much for joining us yet again.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely been a lot of fun. So make sure you check us out. But until next time, have a great night. This has been Chris of Podcast City Network's Final Score. Good night.
Podcast City Network.